good morning, college football fans. We are back whole, all three hosts in the house for you, albeit temporarily, with our boy Daniel down there, right? All of us are here this morning to talk a little football with you guys. We're calling a little audible today, though. Normally, we call this the Saturday morning cocktail kickoff. Today, it's probably better referred to as the Saturday morning coffee kickoff, at least for a couple hours until we get our second guest. Because, look, I'm recovering from 7 days in a tent, and I had a Wednesday morning cocktail, a Thursday morning cocktail, all the way up to Sunday last week. So, guys, the liver needs a breather. But just in case things get crazy, I got a little whiskey to pour in that coffee if I've got to. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, I too am starting with this coffee. I started to think, man, did we all age like 30 years because there's no alcohol involved, coffee and whatnot? You're over there hacking up a lung. I was like, man, I feel like I'm at the old folks' home. But
No doubt. And speaking of locations, where the hell are you, Petty?
Well, right now I'm at the International House of Pancakes in Orlando, getting ready to go to Epcot Center. So
getting ready to poison yourself.
My Saturday morning cocktail will kick off when I start around the world at Epcot. And
you don't have an airplane bottle in your pocket to dump in that orange juice? Come on, man.
No. Not, man, I'm like you. It rained all day yesterday, and we were at the Magic Kingdom, which made it not very magic. But the one thing that does do is cause you to drink under shade. So we had a few cocktails yesterday. So I'm gonna take it easy until I get to Epcot today.
I see. So you're feeling it a little bit this morning too, huh?
Yeah, man. I am. I probably am gonna pound a waffle or two at this international or pancake at the pancake house here.
Can't say waffle there, man.
Well, let me ask you a question. How are you going to watch this big Ole Miss game today from Disney World?
Same way I'm tuning into this here show with this phone that I need to keep, that I've got a spare charger for here in my little fanny pack.
I was about to ask what was that battery percentage.
Yeah, part of walking around the world will be me holding my phone, hoping I don't run into people yelling at Ole Miss.
Isn't there like a little ESPN studio somewhere over there, like at Universal or something like that? You could hop over to.
I could probably.
Oh, there's a sports bar across from Universal, the NBC Sports Bar, that is fantastic. Food's pretty good too.
Maybe even a massage parlor or two down here in Orlando that our visiting coach likes to.
You gonna go to that special Bob Kraft massage parlor down there in Florida?
I think it was down here in Florida somewhere where his specialty spots. So.
Yeah, I think you need to look for some strip malls because I'm pretty sure it was in a strip mall. Classy joint, very classy joint.
Watch out for monkeys.
Yeah, kind of place where a billionaire can go in and get a BJ and come out and not get arrested. Sounds like, right?
So if I go in, do I ask for pole assassin with the comfort monkey?
Yes, that's the gold package. You have to pay extra for that.
That depends on whether or not you're willing to get bit by said monkey. We already heard the story about your dad, Petty, on our episode Final Four Fingers on the Week Zero Sports and Other Stuff podcast, and we don't want you to end up like him with only 9 digits, bud.
Man, a monkey did indeed bite my dad's finger off. I don't know if he was watching down on that story this week and was like, crap, man, had a little bit of PTSD with that monkey latching onto that kid's finger, but that was straight up how my dad lost his finger.
True story. The monkey that bit Petty's dad is the grandfather of the pole assassin monkey.
They did a 23. They did a 23andMe and found that out.
Yeah, it was a long study.
Just a habitual finger biting monkey clan.
Man,
this one just ended up.
It's an outbreak. It's like that movie, dude.
Well, that's enough nonsense about pole dancing monkeys, guys. Let's talk about a little bit of football while we've got Petty here, because he may have to break for waffles in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and jump into his game. That big Ole Miss Liberty matchup. Liberty coming home. Handjob Hugh coming home to his Ole Miss Rebels today. What do you think, Petty?
Man, I think. Look, man, if Ole Miss was fully healthy, I think they actually win this game by 30 points. I think Hugh Freeze will be a side story by the end of it. I think the media will try to build it up before kickoff. And I actually watched Hugh's little presser this week, and he did a good job answering the questions or whatever. He made it a few humble brags in there like Hugh's known to do. But, I mean, like you said, you brought it to my attention earlier this week that Ole Miss was practicing 2 of its 9 offensive starters. I mean, I think
2 of 11.
Back and see why. Look, we can
in
talk
football. We have
about
11 players, Petty, in case you forgot.
Yeah, 2 of 11.
He was talking about arena football.
We can talk Indian burial ground stuff down there at Auburn, but man, when you're that banged up, it's hard to win. But luckily, and I think Kiffin made light of it. Like, why are we scheduling this team? Well, when we scheduled them, they didn't have Hugh Freeze and Malik Willis, so when we scheduled them, they kind of suck. I think he's kind of wishing we played Alcorn. However, banged up or not, I know Corral didn't even practice Wednesday, but he said he's playing. I still think Ole Miss's defense is going to do enough to shut a team like Liberty down. They have gotten better over the last few weeks, and I think Ole Miss pounds the rock with one Snoop Connor, which is a favorite of my Bama brethren on this show. So
I love me some Snoop, buddy. I'm the only Bama fan on earth that starts going Snoop every time he touches the ball.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of the read option today where Matt actually hands it off. And I think, look, man, these receivers might not be able to get separation against a defense like Auburn or some of the SEC teams, but we're playing Liberty today. So I think you'll see some of the secondary receivers step up and make some plays for Matt. So I think, it may not be comfortable out of the gate, but I think Ole Miss wins comfortably and covers the spread today.
Well, I think, they're obviously going to try to keep Corral from getting hit too much because of that ankle.
Yes.
Try to get him back recovered for SEC play. And I think that's going to come with a little bit of that slant game. And I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction. You're going to take a slant to the house today. How about that?
I'm good with that. I'm good with a couple, but I think we're going to see him over the middle too. I think that we'll be able to dissect this defense, and I think you'll even see a big day from Chad Kelly's little bro, Chase. So he's really stepped up. He got hurt in the offseason, and man, in the last few weeks, he's kind of been the outlet for Matt. So
now you'll have to forgive my lack of Ole Miss knowledge there, but does he play tight end? Is that right?
He is the tight end. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that guy right there. I don't think he's going to catch the slant for the touchdown. I'm thinking more of
he won't be the
wide receiver for that one. But
that might be. We'll say, if that's going to be one, it'll either be Dennis Jackson or maybe who's the other kid? I can't get his name right. We've got a few freshmen that have kind of stepped up, and Jacor Pearson, the kid that dropped a few big passes against Tennessee, called a few big ones, and actually had the biggest day last week for Ole Miss of any receivers, number 0. So he could be your one. He's a little guy. He may be the one going over the middle and make that play. Man, I saw this stat. Man, it was crazy. You talk about injuries. Last week, this was on the Grove, so I got to give those guys credit. I think Chase pulled it out. Of the 300 passing yards Ole Miss had, 217 of them went to walk-on. So, again, man, it's a banged-up team. I wish this was a week where they were playing Alcorn or so, somebody local that they could give the money to instead of stupid, dirty-ass Liberty. And
Falwell.
Keep the money in the state, and maybe get a breather for a week. But it's what it is. Hopefully they'll stick it to Freeze.
Well, Petty, from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like we might be getting a little glimpse of maybe a future Ole Miss team today with some of that depth coming out and getting a little bit of playing time against this smaller opponent. Is that right? Are we going to get a look of what maybe this team's going to look like next year a little bit?
Maybe what we need to fix.
Okay, gotcha. There are two sides of that coin, I guess. Well, Justin, I want to ask you, because you're not as intertwined with the Ole Miss kind of what's going on in the Ole Miss world as we are. From the outside looking in, what's your opinion of how Ole Miss is looking in the last couple games, especially against Auburn, and how do you think they're going to handle Hugh coming back to town today?
Well, to be quite honest, as a football fan, I hate the state of things at Ole Miss right now with all the injuries, because we're not able to see a true 100% Ole Miss team. Let's just face it, guys. And
they're exciting to watch.
They are very exciting to watch. And to be honest with you, I really question the hyping of Auburn right now because of that victory last week, because everybody is jumping on the Auburn train, as everybody tends to do in November, because as we all know, Auburn always plays like absolute crap the first half of the season, and then they rise from the dead and they look fantastic in November. But there's a lot of that hype right now because they beat an Ole Miss team that's reeling
wounded, big time wounded.
But I hate it for Ole Miss, because if you look at it, man, with the talent, if they're all healthy, you look at a SEC West contender, and if Alabama, God forbid, slips up, they can go and Atlanta and then play Georgia. And let's face it, Georgia's defense couldn't handle an offense like Kiffin's.
No, I honestly believe, I'm right there with you. I honestly believe a healthy Ole Miss would give Georgia fits and possibly beat that team. And we'll get to that later when we talk about Georgia.
As an Ole Miss fan, I agree, and it makes you feel good hearing that. Like, man, because I agree, healthy, I think we can swing punches with anybody, but that's where it sucks, and that's where Kiffin kind of warned everybody before the season that, look, man, we don't have the depth yet. We can compete with people when we're healthy, but if not, things could get scary, and we're seeing exactly that. So that's the unfortunate thing. We play Auburn in week 3, and get their Georgia State performance. We pop them in the mouth. Unfortunately, Auburn's got a little bit better of a depth, had an off week, and got us at the right damn time, and it sucks. But that's how the schedule plays, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that's a little beneficial, or maybe make the Ole Miss faithful kind of perk up a little bit. But Ole Miss wasn't 100% healthy when they played Bama. They had lost their number 1 or number 2, depending on how you want to look at it, receiver going in there, and that that hurts a little bit. But on the other side of the ball, this Alabama team that put up, 60 last year against them, they held us to about 30 points, something like that, right? 35 points?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they only our offense is infinitely better than Georgia's, so, you can do the transitive property if you need to.
But even
having to rely on defense a little bit.
Even when they played Alabama.
Guys, I'm going to have to step out just for a minute, but I will be back on the show, and I'll get back in before I
get the Colorado omelet.
Y'all's awesome guest.
Do not get an omelet for my hop. That's the most disgusting pile of yellow mush I've ever seen in my life. Don't do it.
Come on, man.
All right, guys. See y'all in a bit.
All right, buddy. All right. Take it here. But even against Alabama, they were down one player. They weren't down the bodies that they are now. Against Alabama,
right.
If some things go their way, they're still in that game and have a chance to possibly do more than what they did. But now, man, well, first of all, give credit to Lane Kiffin and his coaching ability despite all this adversity. And then, of course, huge hella credit goes to Matt Corral and what he's been able to do despite everything that's going on around him with his personnel and injuries that he's suffering, man. That dude is a soldier, and he still has my vote for Heisman just based on that. No slight to Bryce Young, Bama Nation. Don't get pissed. But the dude's earning it.
Yeah, just based on what he's done. And we want to get back to this comment a little later when we're talking about that Georgia game, because Michael made a great point right here about Adam Anderson being suspended for the rape charge. And, I kind of have a feeling that's going to be a suspended until they play Bama situation. But I hope it's not as serious they say it are, because I hate when, this kind of stuff goes on with these college athletes. And, sexual assault is one of the most gruesome things that can happen. So if he's guilty of that, we obviously want him off the field. But you never know on these things until the real facts come out. But if he's still suspended, it's a big shot to the Georgia defensive line. And what's the deal with all these Anderson guys coming out and killing? Is there like some Anderson guy that went around populating the Southeast with defensive ends?
There's a secret coalition that's been formed. We're not supposed to know about it.
Right, secret coalition. I love it. Well, since Daniel's gone, let's step into one of the other games this week before we get into our favorite, the Bama game. Let's talk a little bit about that Mississippi State versus Arkansas game. What are you seeing in this? This one's a little bit of a shocker to me.
Well, to be honest with you, Mississippi State is playing great football right now. They're a much better team than what the record indicates. To be honest with you, man, they're a couple of plays away and a bad call away from only having one loss, and that's to Alabama.
Right. You're speaking of that Memphis game that had a very crazy ending.
Well, absolutely. That call shouldn't have been made, and that determined the outcome ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Mississippi State is ultimately a lot better than what they are. Proof in the pudding. The playoff rankings this week ranked them 17th or something.
They were top 20, and it shocked the world.
Well, it really shouldn't shock the world because they've beaten 3 top 25 teams.
More top 25 teams than anybody in the country. Had Bama beaten Texas A&M, they'd be tied. But, they've got 3 top 25 wins, more than anybody.
And Will Rogers is playing exceptionally well. But one of the things about Mississippi State, if you noticed, if you've ever really paid attention to Mississippi State history, for some reason there is some kind of voodoo against Mississippi State when they are doing well when they face Arkansas.
It's both Mississippi schools. Ole Miss has it too a lot of times. They just flop in a late season Arkansas game, and it gave us a natty one time, right?
It did, and
or at least a chance at one, I think.
We appreciate Bacon Bits doing that, but
right.
But yeah, maybe they're taking that into account today. I don't know, but Arkansas is still a pretty decent team. KJ Jefferson and crew. Treylon Burks is still one of the best receivers in the country.
Maybe the best, to be perfectly honest. With that body, wow.
Yeah. And Mississippi State, they're really good up front, good linebackers, but they still are a little susceptible in the defense. And they can give up the long ball at times. So if they're able to get him going, then, it should be an interesting matchup. But overall, I think Mississippi State's a more talented team.
Well, Arkansas is kind of equipped for this air raid style offense with that ridiculously dumb 3-2-6 that they run, like Ole Miss, and that tends to work good for these high flying offenses. So I'm interested to see how this matchup goes. I've avoided picking this game because I really can't get a beat on it, to be honest.
I don't know. I wouldn't touch it, to be honest with you. You can really go either way. I mean, logic tells you Mississippi State wins this probably in a convincing fashion, but weird things happen. I just want Mississippi State to win so we can get the post-game gold from from Mike Leach.
Yeah.
Because, man, I tell you what, that guy's a national treasure. Love hearing him speak.
He nailed out the candy corn last week, and I'm sure he'll get into cranberry sauce in the next couple of weeks, right?
Listen, every post-game interview has been an absolute joy. So
let's talk about this. My favorite post-game interview of all time for Mike Leach is probably one you're not thinking about, but it's right after the big fight in the bowl game last year when he was just acting like it wasn't even going on. It was friggin' hilarious.
I think he does that by design, man.
Sure. He's a really smart guy, and you've got to kind of really think into his posts and stuff because he's clever. You know what I mean? And a lot of times the jokes will go right over your head if you're not paying attention because he's a weird old pirate.
Hey, fun little fact: did you know that he starred in an episode of Friday Night Lights?
Shocked. I did not know that, but I'm going to tell you something. We're going to show that scene next week for sure because I've got to see it.
It's in the last season of Friday Night Lights, so I'm sure everybody's going to be scrambling to YouTube after that little nugget. But yeah.
Sure, we're going to lose all of our viewers to YouTube for that one. See, I'm dropping down right now.
Hey, man, that's arguably one of the greatest TV series ever if you're a sports guy.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to touch on this game a little bit more when we get our first guest, Mr. Tim Hamm from Sports Illustrated, who covers the Texas A&M Aggies and the Arkansas Razorbacks. So looking forward to that. So I'm going to bring you off that, and we'll do our picks on that game once he gets in. So we can, I want to digest those good insights before I say something stupid, right?
I say stupid stuff all the time, but I get a show. So,
well, yeah, and you get a lot of views too. So, hey, I guess that means we can say stupid stuff. Well, speaking of stupid stuff, we called out what we like to call the WTF, or what the fuck line, on our Thursday morning podcast that came out Friday, Week 0 Sports and Other Stuff. And usually when we pick these games out, it's because the line just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to take you out of the SEC for this one right now.
Don't do that. It's nasty out there.
Too early to get outside of the motherland, right? Well, I've got to do it. I've got to do it because this one is one of the biggest WTFs that we've seen this year. And that is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, 8-0, undefeated, traveling over to the most inconsistent team in the history of the world, the UNC Tar Heels. And believe it or not, the Tar Heels are favored by 2.5. What do you think about that, Justin?
Let me ask you a more important question. Is Wake Forest really 7-0? I mean, look at them. Are they really that good? Isn't 7-0 a little misleading?
Is there a good chance the ACC falls to Group of 5?
They already are a Group of 5.
Ooh, burn.
Let's just be honest, man. There's really outside of Clemson these past several years, there really has been no contender or serious noisemaker of any kind. And when they get to the bowls, they don't really pop, or there's no flair. But yeah, this Wake Forest team, they're 7-0. Congratulations. They didn't even do this back when Jim Grove had led them to the Orange Bowl against Louisville some years ago.
Right.
It's got them talking, and let's just face it, Wake Forest isn't used to receiving this kind of acclaim. So,
look,
love and enjoy it, but North Carolina, I mean,
when I look at Mac Brown, I don't see a motivated guy unless you're talking about motivated to get to the dinner table. That dude's packed on about 25 pounds in the last couple of years. He seems like he is on vacation over at North Carolina, and I don't think, this guy squandered more talent when he was at Texas than most coaches will ever have on their teams. You know what I mean? And the only way he got that national title was because Vince Young was just going to get it. You know what I mean? So he's got the talent there, Justin. There's talent on that UNC roster, and they're never motivated. So will they be motivated to knock off Little Sister down the road just so that they can kind of own the triangle? Or, how do you think this game's going to play out? Will they come out and be the North Carolina they're supposed to be and actually blow this team out of the water? Or is this going to be another just mucky game?
I'm going monkey, but the thing is,
can't get that monkey out of your mind, can you?
I can't. Oh, assassin comfort monkey.
Pole assassin.
I want to see a Big Al come out.
Let's get our terminology clear. It's an emotional support monkey.
I want to see Big Al come out in a costume at the game.
Today, think they'll roll him a pole out there where he can do a pole dance for us?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, they had the popcorn right there on hand during the Ole Miss game, so who knows what they got back there?
How do you have like a ready to go outfit? I mean, for any occasion, that's crazy.
Mind blowing.
Props to the wardrobe department over there in Tuscaloosa. But
Absolutely.
back to our game. Yeah, man, they are very talented. Just look at the recruiting classes that Mac Brown's had.
Sure. I mean,
Done absolutely zero.
Again,
overhyped.
he's great at squandering talent.
And you gotta wonder how many millions is Sam Howell losing being there right now.
I don't know, man, because this quarterback, this guy's supposed to be a good quarterback. I don't know if it's the system, but I always go back to Joe Burrow when I'm talking about how a good quarterback can just get flushed down the toilet in a bad system. Because if you look at Joe Burrow in his junior year at LSU, he was putrid. He was throwing as many interceptions as touchdowns. It was awful. And then you bring Joe Brady in there to give him a passing game, and he is lethal, and now he's killing it in the NFL. How many quarterbacks over time have been flushed down the toilet because they were good in bad systems? I mean, pay attention, man. Quarterbacks. You need to come to Bama.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
And then when they get to the NFL, everybody's scratching their head like, what is all this? Well, they actually have something now called coaching. And coaches that can develop players.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
I think Mac Brown's kind of in a semi-coaching, semi-retirement mode.
Do you think he's kind of that Steve Spurrier at South Carolina? Like, I'll jump up and win a game or two?
Yeah, that is a good analogy right there. I looking at his body language, looking at the things he's doing, if I had to compare it to anything, it'd be that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're probably not going to get back on this game today later. What's your pick for how this one's going to come out? And I'm going to give you the answer.
The fans suffer.
The fans suffer. Fair enough. I'll give you that. I think that's 100%.
Mucky game, like we said. Yeah, I think Wake Forest wins, but it's going to be one of those ugly, why in the world did I watch this game?
I'm right there with you just from looking at the things, but sometimes Vegas gets one on us, right? Sometimes they put out one of these WTF lines, and you're like, well, this is too easy. Everybody just take Wake Forest. Giving points to the undefeated team, right? Wrong. This is when you get burned. And when you've got 80% of the bets and the money on one team and the wrong team is favored, the wrong team usually covers. Don't know why. Don't know how they know this. But this WTF lines are like 20-4 over the course of a few years. Mm-hmm. It's insane. So, and I made that number up. Don't quote me, but it's somewhere in that range. So, I'm going with UNC, despite my brain. My brain tells me no. Do not do it. Do not do it. I'm taking UNC.
Sam Howells. Go right ahead.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
They had a lot of hype coming into the season anyway, despite the fact they had a ton of talent depart to the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Well, so it sounds to me like you're one of the suckers that's going to be on that Wake Forest side. Don't bet any money, buddy. Okay.
Suckers. I'm not a sucker. I'm just picking the worst, the least of two evils.
The worst of two evils. Agreed. I think the talent's just going to wake up today because they know this team's undefeated and they're less than an hour down the road. It's one of those in-state things, and I think you're going to see maybe even the best out of both teams, to be honest. I know that's weird to say about a North Carolina team, but if they're going to play a good game this year, it's probably this one.
Is it a rivalry? I mean,
well, those teams were rivals because they all used to just suck. You know what I mean? In football, so it was like playing for the bottom.
This is a true quote-unquote rivalry. Then if you can't get up for playing little sister, then, who do you get up for? But
well, if it's a rivalry, it's definitely a little sister rivalry because outside of the Jamie Newman year a couple years ago, Wake Forest has just been in the dust for a long time.
Gosh,
Whatever happened to him? I bet he didn't go to the NFL after sitting out the season, right?
He did, and he was cut from the team in the preseason, like week 2 or something like that.
Maybe he was rusty.
His decision to opt out of Georgia 3 weeks before kickoff to prepare for the NFL draft didn't exactly pan out the way he had thought.
Fair enough. Wow. All right. Well, a lot of good hot stuff here. Justin, you got any games on your list today?
Not outside the SEC because, to be honest with you, I can't even speak. Be honest with you, nothing's really exciting outside of that right now.
You're right. You are correct. Now,
I mean, even though Gameday seems to think that Cincinnati versus Tulsa, so a 4-6 Tulsa is the most exciting matchup of this weekend. And to be honest with you, I think ESPN is just trying to draw in more viewers for a possible Cincinnati in the playoff storyline, when in all actuality, they're not going to be there.
That brings me to my biggest topic of the week, And I've been dying for a way to get you to this because we talked about it a little bit in our show, but we had to cut it short this week. What do you think about the nationwide absolute meltdown that came on Tuesday night when they released the playoff rankings?
It's exactly what ESPN and all the media outlets wanted.
Of course.
Let's be honest, guys. All you people who follow these things, it's all cosmetic right now. It means zero. So everybody who's getting bent out of shape because of this team being here, that team being there, certain teams having privilege, it doesn't matter because it's all going to work itself out. The top 5, top 6 are going to end up playing each other at some point. So all this barking and spewing of idiocracy is all going to be null and void soon anyway. So let's just enjoy football because it really doesn't matter until after the championship games are played.
Here's the deal. Alabama, number 1, will play number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Michigan State's going to play number 7, Ohio State. Number 6, Ohio State, right in there. That flushes 2 people out of the contention.
And Ohio State's going to play Michigan as well. So
Ohio State's going to play Michigan.
You got
the only team that needs to just pack it in is Cincinnati because their one win over a mediocre Notre Dame team probably isn't going to be enough to get them in there, especially considering the amount of struggling they've done against teams the likes of Navy,
Tulane, and anybody else from the homecoming comp.
Look, and the Cincinnati fans, and look, guys, be proud of your team. Support your team. Cheer for your team. I'm right there with you. I'd be saying exactly the same thing if I was a Cincinnati fan. But here's a little truth bomb, okay? You guys played a wounded, mediocre Georgia team last year who couldn't give less of a shit to be in that game and still lost. And that was your Super Bowl. And Georgia, normally in these kind of games, the Utah comes out and beats the Alabama because they just aren't preparing. There's nothing in it for them. And you guys still couldn't beat Georgia. And this was a Georgia that lost several games in the SEC, putrid offense. So, grab a little bit of perspective before you start crying on the internet.
And somebody actually made that point this week. They beat Georgia last year. Yeah, they beat a depleted Georgia team. And
they didn't beat them. I think they lost in the last minute of that game. Is that correct?
Oh, no, sorry, they lost. That's right.
Yeah.
Lost, sorry. Last-second field goal. But, they're saying, they nearly beat Georgia. This is the same Georgia team. No, it's not the same Georgia team. Because, like you said, that Georgia team was hurt. And
that Georgia team got hammered by Florida?
Yeah, that Georgia team, the players that actually were really good, they ended up opting out. I think their quarterback was probably the only one who didn't opt out in that game. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't.
But saying their quarterback had already opted out with Jamie Newman because he had transferred over from Wake Forest, so they were with that Stetson Bennett kid that.
Well, Bennett didn't start. It was.
Was it?
Why did you forget his name?
Oh well, move on.
Either way, it wasn't a fully loaded Georgia team that was motivated or healthy.
No.
So the fact that they still
lost. That was their Super Bowl. That was their SEC. Like they put everything into that game, and they still lost to a half motivated Georgia team.
Look,
okay,
it's not really a great story either. I mean. Little boy. That's because that's what they are. They don't play anybody. If they
Notre Dame's played Bama a couple times in the last few years. They played that big Notre Dame team and beat them. That's not hard to do, guys. We've played Notre Dame in the last 6 or 8 years, and it looks really bad when we play them. We annihilate them.
Even the Notre Dames in those years have better talent than what Cincinnati has this year.
Yes,
and they still got skull drugged. I mean, that's just facts. And to be honest with you, it's not that great of a story. I mean, Cincinnati doesn't play anybody, and if all their fans and all the people outside of the SEC want to complain about it, tell them in their non-conference scheduling to go schedule somebody worthwhile like Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, or one of the other Power 5 heavyweights when they're having a good season.
Sure,
but if you put a Cincinnati in there right now, they're just going to get boat raced.
Do you know who is in pretty much a similar situation to Cincinnati right now, and they're not crying or complaining. They're just headed out to play a North Carolina team this week. That's Wake Forest. Did you hear the Wake Forest fans? And I know how many Wake Forest fans are there, but did you hear them crying? I didn't hear them crying anywhere, and they're undefeated.
They're just happy to be undefeated.
Happy to have the schedule line up right, huh? Yeah. Kind of like Michigan this year.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What about that one? Let's touch that a little bit. What about Harbaugh and not being able to win a big game? If he doesn't beat Ohio State this year, are they finally going to light those khakis on fire?
You had to think so, man, because how many years in a row now is this that they've lost to Ohio State?
50? I don't know. It's like Alabama,
like
Tennessee. We stopped counting.
And like you said, this year out of any year, man, the schedule is lining up perfectly. And the teams that, were decent aren't really having a great year. So Michigan's been able to beat them. So, yeah, and they should have beat Michigan State. I'm sorry, you had that sizable lead. You don't lose that game. But, then then their running back, Mr. State's running back happened.
Hey, buddy, he's good. He's good. 5 touchdowns. I saw him a couple games before, and I was like, all right, this dude's legit. Kind of reminded me back to when they had Le'Veon Bell on that team, and he was running all over everybody, and, they were a solid-ass team. Another thing we got to talk about before we get off the CFP rankings. This has been floating around on memes everywhere, and I haven't heard a lot of national coverage. I'm sure there has been, but how cool is it that the top 4 teams have all coached on the same team at Bama?
I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm here for you, buddy.
I didn't really even think about it until I saw the graphic, and then it kind of hit me. I was like, man, wow. That's just
2015. What a year, huh?
A decade.
Is that the Coker year?
Yes, that
was Coker year.
That is Jake Coker, man.
Wow, way to go, guys!
Man, gosh, what a coaching staff that year, and they're all doing their thing at their respective universities. It's absolutely amazing.
I missed this little comment from our boy Petty. I guess he's shoving a waffle in right now. But North Carolina going to win because it makes no sense. That's literally my philosophy on this game.
He got a waffle at IHOP? Wow, he's gangster.
Woo! Well, I'll tell you something, guys. We've got our first guest coming with us in about 29 minutes, and that's Mr. Tim Hamm from Sports Illustrated. So we're trying to hold back some of the games that he's going to be really into before we get into that.
So much to talk about those games, but don't want to repeat myself.
Absolutely. So I'm going to slip into the game that we want to talk about a little bit first, just as a prelude, because we probably won't get back to that until our second guest. But do you want to give everybody a teaser about our second guest today? We haven't said much about it. It's a pretty nice little secret.
Yeah, nice little secret. One of my good friends and former Alabama defensive back safety from 1999 through 2002, Wayne Bacon. Great story, man. This guy was a former walk-on, could have gone anywhere else in the country, was heavily recruited by Florida State at that time, but decided to turn down Florida State.
If anybody remembers what Florida State looked like in 1998, that's a big turn down.
One of the main reasons was that we grabbed Ronnie Cottrell, one of Florida State's former assistants at that time. He was at Alabama, and he was recruiting Wayne Bacon heavily. And as soon as Cottrell came to Alabama, he called Wayne. He said, "Look, I don't have a scholarship for you right now, but if you give me time and you do your thing, we're going to make sure you're rewarded." And he ended up earning a scholarship. He had to earn his way onto the field. Was very significant. In the 2000 season that was a complete wash. But he was one of the few highlights. 2000.
That was our preseason ranked number 2, finished 3-8 season, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah, but a tremendous guy, hard worker. 2002, undoubtedly his best year. One of his more notable games was when we went. I can't talk today, man. I'm just so excited.
Look,
listen, what it is I'm so excited because I missed last week. And, man, that was like, dude.
Hell of a show that we missed. I know. Good guest. A lot of great stuff.
I had this empty feeling all day, and I had to be at work. Ugh. Anyway.
Corporate overlords suck, dude. You got to break off. Get that Justin Riley network rolling so you don't have to answer to the suits anymore, right?
That's why that's the plan. But anyway, 2002, we head down to Baton Rouge. We weren't expected to do much of anything. We ended up beating LSU, 31 or 34 to nothing.
34 to nothing. I just watched all the highlights of that game this morning.
He had 13 or 15 tackles, had Defensive Player of the Week, really showed out. Fantastic.
First play of the game, LSU actually ran the kickback to our 40. We held them out of points on that, believe it or not. Did not look good at the kickoff, but, man, did that game turn around quickly.
Man, that was an awesome game. I remember watching that one. Funny story, actually, I had tickets to that game, but my ride and my buddy bailed on me for a girl, so I didn't get to go to the game.
Oh, man.
But, man, Wayne Bacon, excited to have him. Good guy. I also played for the Indianapolis Colts for a little bit.
Sure did.
Played with Peyton Manning in practice and had some awesome stories about how those battles went down and how motivated Peyton Manning gets if he throws an interception in practice. So.
Oh, wow. Can't wait to hear that. Well, before we bring in our Sports Illustrated guests, let's talk a little bit about this Alabama-LSU matchup this year because it feels a little bit different than normal. Now, obviously, last year, kind of the same thing. We felt like we were just going to go in there and annihilate them. We did. Okay.
Yeah.
This year, I heard last week on Tuesday that they didn't even practice because they didn't have enough players to field a team. What do you think's going to happen today?
Well, it's funny, that being said, I've read articles and I've heard some analysts, talk about that LSU is really strong in their interior. They have they're strong up front, and this should pose problems for Alabama's offensive line. Let's just be honest with you, this probably C+ right now this year, not up to the Bama standard of offensive lines. And they're saying that LSU is going to have an advantage there and may give us some fits early on. But my question is, you're missing Ali Gay, Andre Anthony, Joseph Evans, along with a lot of other players. If you can't field a team, how are they supposed to create a matchup nightmare for Alabama? Can you answer that?
You've got me on that one, Justin.
And
they're going to be motivated, but I don't know that matters very much when your scheme sucks.
And if let's move out from the interior, let's look at the defensive backs. Right now, they're missing two of their best guys,
NFL guys. Yeah,
and Stingley and Ricks are out, and their secondary is ranked 95th in the nation as far as pass efficiency goes. That's not very good, especially now when Jamison Williams, John Mechie, and Trayshawn Holden, who appears to have that third spot locked down.
And let's not forget Bryce Young throwing the ball to them.
Well, that's the thing is, our receivers have their identity now, and they are lethal. They're peaking just as you said, Bryce Young is peaking. So they're turning on at the right time. And I think the first half of the season, a lot of problems that we had in regards to our wide receivers was nobody knew their role. They didn't know what they were supposed to be.
Right.
And now Jamison Williams, he's the deep threat. John Mechie is that solid number 2 guy. Trayshawn Holden is that wow guy that can bust loose at any second. And I like that guy. I really like I know we have a small sample size from him, but I really feel like he's going to be the next big receiver.
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, looking at that defense, man, just mentioned our wide receivers. B-Rob is pissed off right now still because of the comments made by their fearless leader, Coach O, 2 years ago, saying, this is our house. We're going to beat their ass in recruiting. We're going to beat their ass here, and here. Blah,
That's
blah,
a good
blah.
point. What you just said right there is a very good point. They said, this is our house. We own this place, and this is their first visit back to Bryant-Denny since they claimed ownership. So is rent going to be due today?
Coach Saban's trying to play it down, but like he said, for the players, it definitely is a motivating factor. And man, the rent is due.
Rent is due. Well, here's another thing that I've been looking at that has gotten me feeling good. Okay, and as a quarterback, one of the things that and this sounds very counterintuitive, but thinking is the worst possible thing you can do once the ball is in your hands when you're a quarterback. You need to know what you're going to do. Yep. Practice is when you think. The game is when you react and do what you're trained to do. And in those first few games, I could see Bryce Young thinking. I could see the stuff happening, but it was kind of, he was working his way through his progressions. Now it's starting to happen so fast, it's hard to pick it out from video. You know what I mean? And it's starting to look like to me that the game is slowing down for this kid, which means when they say the game is slowing down, that means you're not thinking anymore, you're watching what's happening, and you can process all of what's going on rather than what you're supposed to be doing. And that works at every position on the field, especially at quarterback. And if you start doing that the week before your bye week, and then you're able to go in and work on your offense without that whole I'm still learning how things are working, you can be lethal. And I expect to see a Bryce Young today that you guys haven't seen this year.
Ooh, man, that means look out. I'm excited because like you said, man, he's finally got that confidence. He's got that comfort. The most notable thing is he's got comfort in something else other than his arm, his feet.
His feet.
Man, and that's something I've been harping on all season, man, is the fact that when that run has been there, he's neglected to take it. But, man, against Mississippi State, he started taking a few steps forward. Against Tennessee, good gosh, man, I was like, finally, he's finally becoming that that guy that he was recruited for to be a dual threat. And, man, he's making people pay. I almost wish we didn't have that bye week, man, because it's like he started catching fire, man.
Well, listen, we're talking about exactly the same thing right now, Justin. These two things that we're talking about, that's him stopping thinking. You know what I mean? He was having to make sure that he had the passing game down first, and I respect that because if Jalen Hurts had done that when he was young rather than taking off running every time, he would have developed into a better quarterback a lot faster instead of waiting until he got to Oklahoma to start developing for real as a passer. So right. I like seeing him doing that early in the year, making sure he had his passing game down because they can all run when they get there. And now that he's comfortable in his passing game, he knows when to run. And I love it. I think he's going to be a star for the next 4 games.
Let me pose a question to you. Let me flip it over to the LSU side of things. Does Coach O, he's fired, does him staying there hurt this team?
Yes. You know what you usually see, and Coach O has been the beneficiary of this several times. When they flush the coach and they put some new blood in there, everybody's reinvigorated. They're like, okay, we got a shot again. We don't have to feel like we're going to lose every game because of this guy. Right. And I think it was a huge mistake not dumping him out. I think it would have been a much better story if they'd have left him on the tarmac at Ole Miss like I predicted.
Absolutely, because conceivably his players have quit on him. Mm-hmm. You had another player quit, I believe, last night, say he wasn't going to play against Alabama, and he was.
Wow, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, his name eludes me right now, but he was a 5-star guy. The guy they got out of last year's recruiting class.
You think he's heading that transfer portal up to Bama?
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, like you said, man, you gotta.
Ole Miss probably, to be honest. Yeah, I have a feeling that Ole Miss is going to raid the LSU Tigers this year.
I wouldn't doubt it, but like you said, man, you've got to raid the toxicity right now that's being caused. At first, I thought maybe keeping him around was a good thing because the players wanted to play for him and he had a good relationship with them. But that right now is proving not to be true. The guys are quitting on him. You got guys who are hurt and are not wanting to play, and you got to move forward. The team has to get invigorated somehow. They need a spark, and plus the guys that you're recruiting need to kind of see, what that next step is going to be, and keeping him there longer than he should be is just kind of delaying everything for your program.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the downside to flushing Coach O and bringing up some young up-and-coming guy that doesn't have a lot of experience just to see what he's got? I mean, I don't think it could have been any worse.
Listen, LSU is a mess right now, and I really feel sorry for anybody who comes in there. You're going to have to be a strong guy to be able to take all that on, and then also have to deal with the boosters, the alumni, so on and so forth.
On the other hand, you're going to have a stocked cupboard of talent and a fertile recruiting ground. So, I mean, if Les Miles can win natties, if Coach O can win natties, it pretty much says anybody can win a natty there that's got any sense, right?
Well, yeah, that has remotely any hint of sense. And let's just face it, they were not winning games because of Les Miles or because of Coach O. Their talent was just so good they won in spite of them. And right. The 2019 National Championship, that wasn't Coach O. That was a strong cast of assistants. Let's just call it what it is.
I don't know if you saw what our boy Petty said here. He just took a break between waffle bites to tell us that Deion Smith, wide receiver at LSU, is already on the Ole Miss radar. They're already looking to get him in. I think if you're an offensive player at LSU and they don't bring in an offensive juggernaut coach, they're going to lose a lot of people up to Ole Miss. I just feel like Kiffin is going to raid that place.
Yeah, Ole Miss or Alabama. I mean, we've already had one flip from there. So, yeah.
They've got more space at Ole Miss. Bama might have a few slots because, we recruit pretty darn good. But they're still trying to fill up the backlog from the Matt Luke years.
In Alabama, if certain players aren't playing right away, they go to Twitter.
Yes. And Ajayi Hall, I know you're not listening to me, but, buddy, hang in there. Look at Devontae Smith's freshman year numbers, okay? Look at that. Go to class. And let's win some damn natties.
I mean, well, look at anybody who's had to wait their turn. My guest on Alabama Standard this week, Kevin Norwood, he had to wait his turn, and his number was called in the LSU game, 2011 National Championship.
Boy, did he ever get called!
Man, listen, he made the Honey Badger his yacht.
I'm gonna tell you something. TJ Yeldon gets the credit for that screen pass touchdown, but he got there because of 83, baby. Kevin Norwood made killer catches on the sideline, toes on the edge, falling out of bounds 2 or 3 times on that last drive. I love that guy.
Kevin Norwood, Blake Sims, man, perfect example. Guy that was told to play several different positions before he finally settled back in. His senior year at quarterback ended up setting several Alabama passing records. He still to this day does not get the credit he deserves. And then you look at guys like Najee Harris. You look at guys like
that's what I was going to say. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had to wait his turn at Alabama, and look what happened. He didn't get the full load of carries till his senior year.
Well, you got and look at that running back group, man. They were 7 deep.
Yeah.
You know, Bo Scarborough talks about it all the time. He said when I got there, we had 7 or 8 deep.
Yeah.
And he said, transfer portal wasn't an option for me. I had to compete, and I'm going to take that position, and he ended up doing it. And Mac Jones, another one.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Mac Jones is the perfect example. How many quarterbacks bailed during those 3 years? I mean, you got like 5-star Blake Barnett that bailed out early on. You've got Jalen Hurts that bailed. I mean, we had – obviously Barnett wasn't any good. Let's be clear about that. But I'm just saying quarterbacks don't usually have the patience to wait their turn. And Mac Jones is the starting quarterback at the New England Patriots right now because he waited his turn. And if he had come out in his sophomore year, you can bet that deep ball wouldn't have been as pretty. You can bet he'd have made a lot of mistakes. You can bet the fan base would have been against him. It was a perfect situation for Mac Jones, and now he's a freaking star.
And might I add, he is leading all NFL rookie quarterbacks in every category. He's also leading
first year, second year quarterbacks.
Well, second year quarterbacks and quarterbacks in general in a lot of categories. So
absolutely,
he's doing his thing up there, man. So
I don't know if you heard this, but one guy nobody heard much of, Joe Montana. You ever heard of that guy? Came out this week and said that he wished that, and he was on board for the 49ers taking Mac Jones in that third slot. That would have been his pick.
Head scratcher.
Head scratcher. How's Trey Lance doing right now? I don't know if anybody goes back and listens to our podcast. Maybe we predicted this. He's not any good. He's not a good passer. He's a running back.
Well, it's like when he throws the ball, it's like he's mad at it.
Yeah.
Or he's having like a 5-year-old little girl tantrum.
He has 0 touch, and that's a problem in the NFL. If you can't throw over the top of that middle level of the defense and let it rainbow over there and get it in, makes things a lot harder because you got to throw through windows of 6 people instead of throwing over them. Very, very difficult. And these guys that don't have any touch, that's their problem. And I'm going to tell you something. A good coach can get you coached into that right, because if you watched one Matt Corral 2 years ago, you would have seen someone with exactly the same problem, and now he looks like Joe Montana.
So, which circles back to our original point. If you're patient and you wait, it pays dividends. And
it pays dividends.
But in today's society, the worst thing you can tell any of these guys is the word wait.
Right.
A lot of these guys had the problem with, I'm so tired of hearing 4-star this, 5-star that. That's BS. That's a high school ranking. When you get to University of Alabama or whatever Power 5 institution,
stars
that
don't
means
matter.
Nothing. You have to earn your way onto the field. And let me make this point very clear, and Bo Scarborough and my guys have talked about this regularly. It's not just the practice field. It's not just the weight room. It's not just the classroom. It's a combination of a lot of things, and you have to earn the trust of your coaches and teammates in every single area. So just because you show up as a 5-star, that doesn't mean you're given the keys to the car. And
right.
And that's the problem with these guys. Don't seem to understand that. And on top of that, I think the NIL is one of the biggest reasons why we're having an issue right now.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the combination of the NIL and the transfer portal. Those two things together have changed college football dramatically.
Without a doubt, because I was all in favor of the players getting paid, but the thing is, though, you got to be able to have rules and standards in place that kind of govern it correctly and not let it get out of hand. Because now you've got players looking around the room who aren't starters, but their homeboys are. The homeboys got this nice deal where they're getting all this money, and then or have a nice ride. They have all the things that they feel like they should be getting. And it's causing them to feel some type of way because they're on the bench having to wait.
Right.
So that's the issue right now. So a coach is having a hard time.
It's this, and I hate to say it because it's the channel we're on, but it's this YouTube society right now. You can sit there and you can just flip through YouTube, TikTok. You just get entertained instantly. Everybody grows up with that mindset now. And if you're not getting exactly what you want in a few seconds, you want to throw it away and go find it, right? And it works the same way when you're getting into waiting for your turn at a football team.
Right. Absolutely. So but yeah, these guys, that's all they're seeing. They're not understanding the they don't understand the journey. They all they see is the end game, and they think that they're automatically supposed to be propelled there, and that's where Coach Saban has had some issues this year. But and until they grasp what it means to earn your stripes and do the right things, it's not going to work out for them, and they're going to take to Twitter and make complete jackasses of themselves.
No, you've got to earn it. And what this guy's saying right here, Mr. Motherfucker Jones, I've heard that name before. They do need to work on honing their skills. And go piggybacking on Smitty saying he would catch 100 balls every day. I don't know if you guys were here when we were talking to Mr. Gerald Poe, but he talked about his most impressive athlete he had ever seen was J.J. Watt. And after he got his $100 million contract, he went out and flipped 100 tractor tires, one for each million. You know what I mean? That's the kind of attitude you've got to have to make it.
Right, and you bring up a very good point. A lot of these guys think that once they get to a certain tier, that equates to them, stopping or coasting.
Right.
So it's definitely an issue, and I think that's why Saban's had a kind of a hard time this year. Reining some people in, getting the defense focused on what they should be doing, and maybe that's kind of why we're having a few of the communication breakdowns. Of course, that's not the only thing. There's a combination of things. The breakdown of the defense right now, you got to take a look into this at this point in the season. Pride comes into play. If you're still having the same issues you're having, like blown coverages, missed assignments, not knowing where you're supposed to be, missed tackles, things like that, then it's a pride issue. Because if you've not fixed that at all, that tells me that you're lazy. So that coupled with a few things I just mentioned are definitely some of the factors that I think are leading to some programs struggling. Unless you're like a Georgia, and I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. Well, not bandwagon. I'm going to jump on that train right now. If you look at Georgia, they have something right now that maybe Alabama has lost, and that's that hunger, that chip on their shoulder. That need to prove everybody wrong. And every week Georgia shows up. Yes, Georgia has not played anybody offensively that's worth a damn. Let's just call it what it is. However, every play I see the same exact intensity from their players, and it's unrelenting. It's been nonstop, and they're not coming down. It's like they're on a mission this year to overthrow Alabama, and you got to come with that tenacity week after week. So Alabama needs to return to that and get that chip on their shoulder, that dog that's wanting to fight for everything they got, if they're hoping to get past a lot of these teams before we even talk about playing the SEC championship. And that's another point, guys. Listen, we can talk all day long about how Alabama is going to match up against Georgia, how we're better in this area, that area. But the fact is, we got work to do. I don't want to hear about Georgia until we beat LSU, regardless of how bad the matchup is tonight. We still got to beat LSU.
Here's what I want to do. I want to talk up Georgia for the next 4 weeks like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. I want all the rat poison in the world to hit that team because they're not playing anybody for the next few weeks. If they get a scare, it's because they just play a putrid game. They're going to roll in there with their heads as big as this house, and they haven't faced an elite offense yet. So I'm hoping – now, here's the deal. They could be just as good against an elite offense as they are against a non-elite, but we won't know till they see one.
They could. And don't they play Tennessee in 2 weeks?
Tennessee plays fast, but again, they're not elite.
A little bit of a challenge. I'm curious to see, because Tennessee offensively, although the record's not that great right now, Tennessee their offense is actually ranked in the top 10 in some categories.
They're the fastest team in the country right now in plays per minute.
Right. They do give up a lot of sacks. However, they also are doing a lot of other things right. So I'll be interested to see how Georgia's defense responds to that kind of offense. But yeah, I'm tired of the talk about Alabama versus Georgia. We got to earn our way.
We ain't even there yet.
Listen, that matchup on the Plains is getting crazier and weirder by the minute because, like I mentioned earlier, Auburn, it seems like every year the first half of the season they play absolute booty, and then in November all of a sudden the switch comes on. And it's like they're raising hell and wreaking havoc. And heaven forbid we go to Jordan Hare, the Indian burial ground where voodoo happens,
I'm going to make you feel a little bit better about this. I think the reason why they sucked for the first few months is that's how long it took Gus Malzahn every year to negotiate his deal with the devil. Takes a few weeks to get that down,
But Gus Malzahn is gone. Brian Harsin is in.
Right.
And right now, Bo Nix is playing very well. However, a measuring stick will happen today.
Yep.
Against Texas A&M. And my argument, as we are going to be segueing to our first guest pretty soon.
We got about 5 minutes till Tim Lamb shows up.
My argument,
Tim Hamm. Tim Lamb's Daniel's father-in-law. Sorry about that.
Family. Come on, dude.
Tim Hamm, sorry. I've been making that confusion for the last 3 months because, again, it's one of our clients at work, too, as well. So that name just mixes for me. Apologize, Tim. Tim's.
I will, and I don't want to, say too much before he gets on here because I want to discuss everything with him. But one of my biggest arguments right now is why is College Game Day not at this matchup today?
You're
right.
Because who did they choose over this again?
Cincinnati against a 4-6.
Big game.
A 4-6 Tulsa. That's a
big game. Big game. Now, let me ask you, is this game on CBS? Because ESPN hates to do game day at a CBS game.
It is at CBS.
There you go. Money, money, money. Follow the cash, baby.
However, if you look at this game, it's 13 versus 14? Is that the rankings or something similar?
They're very close.
Yes, and there's a lot on the line in this game.
Yeah.
The winner of this game is still very much alive for the West Division crown.
Auburn very, very much alive. Texas A&M alive.
Yes, and for those of you who hadn't done your homework, if Auburn wins, all they have to do is beat Alabama. They're in.
If Auburn loses, all they got to do is beat Alabama, and Texas A&M's in. Now they got to lose. Texas A&M got 2 losses already. Is that right in the conference?
They have 2 losses. So basically, what they need is for Alabama to lose to Auburn.
Yep, that's right. It looks like there you go. We're losing you for a second there, Justin. You may have to repeat what you just said.
I switched to Boost Mobile this week, and this is what I'm getting. No, I was gonna say, there's a lot on the line here. Auburn's path a lot easier, A&M's path a lot harder, but definitely very doable. So this is a game I think this should be more publicized than it is. But then again, we're not ESPN. We don't get paid the big bucks, and we're not going to be politically correct and promote teams like Cincinnati. So
right. No, I'm not. And Cincinnati, go beat some people. Seriously, you beat Notre Dame. Kudos. That's good. You beat a mid-tier team, and that's the fact of the matter. Notre Dame's ranked number 10, not because they're good, but because their name is Notre Dame. And I get Alabama gets some ranking for that too. That's fine. But Notre Dame gets it better than anybody in the country. They're always 5 or 7 positions higher than they should be. The years they were in the playoff, they went undefeated through a schedule that had maybe 2 ranked teams on it. Yep. And then when they got there, we saw exactly what they really were. So, again, don't get too excited about the Notre Dame victory. Okay?
Hey, so let me ask a question. And that same token, why is Danny Cannell not talking about that in regards to Notre Dame? But he's so quick to pull
Danny Cannell has made a living trolling Bama fans, just like the guy over in Memphis. What's his name? I can't think of it offhand. Finally, but Dan
Wolken.
Clay Travis, right? So those 2 people, they just go and say whatever they think will piss off Bama fans, and that allows them to get to get in there. But it looks like we have got our guest waiting in the green room right now. You want to give him a big introduction there?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the stage one of my good friends from SI, and he was formerly with Teague's Take. That's how I met him. For Alabama fans, George Teague has his own show called Teague's Take, and Mr. Tim Hamm here helped produce that, and now he is involved in a whole lot more. One of those things is covering the Texas A&M Aggies, along with some other teams. But listen, you got a big game today, so I had to bring an expert in to properly set this thing up. What's going on, Tim?
How we doing, boys?
Man, great to meet you, Tim.
You as well. Yeah, it's a big day for college football today, and who would have thought, after the Aggies week 5, sitting at 3-2 with 2 SEC losses, that there would be another big game the rest of the year. I certainly didn't.
Well, boy, things have changed, right? You guys are actually, we just finished talking about this right before you jumped in, but with a win today and a little Auburn victory over my Tide, you guys are in the SEC championship game.
How crazy is that? Number one,
insane.
A Zach Calzada-led football team can be playing for anything at this point, which shocks the crap out of me. Not a fan.
On that note, and I've been dying to ask you this question for several weeks. What did they give that kid? What happened the week before the Bama game that got Texas A&M's shit together and made them into one hell of a football team?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring up an abrasive name here in A&M Alabama history, and that name is Johnny Manziel.
Oh, yeah.
As Johnny himself was at the game that night at Kyle Field, and, no doubt he's got all the bad juju. We're all familiar with his story, especially if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you're familiar with his story as well. But he was at the game, and I can't think of any other excuse other than him bringing some juju with him for the way Calzada played in that first half. Now, don't talk to me about the way he played in the second half, because it wasn't this way he played in the first half, and I was terrified that whole second half. But, give Seth Small, our kicker, all the credit. I'm sure everybody's seen the video of his family in the stands at the time that
was touching.
It was awesome. Very touching and heartwarming, and especially if you're an Aggie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's the season. I described it as a roller coaster, up and down season several times over at allaggies.com for Sports Illustrated, and it's just shocking to me the way this team can sort of turn it on and turn it off, and they seem to turn it off at the wrong times. I was at the Arkansas game at AT&T Stadium for the Southwest Classic, and it was an embarrassment. I didn't even recognize the team on the field, even the defense. That was the first game they allowed a passing touchdown all season, and it seemed to steamroll downhill from there. Mississippi State next week was just even worse, and really all hope was gone for the Aggie season after that game. There was zero pressure on the team going into the Alabama game, and I'm sure that had something to do with it. I'm sure Jimbo had them playing loose. Hey, look, boys, there's nothing riding on this game except your pride. Just go out there and do what you do, and let's see what happens. And sure enough, man, just lightning in a bottle that first half. And that's an Alabama defense I don't know that I'd ever seen before, or maybe that I've seen since.
Yeah, agreed. I don't want to see it again. I have seen it before. It was at the Ole Miss game last year, if you're watching that one.
There it is, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that Manziel magic is very true. And I was actually at the game. My first visit to College Station was the Alabama versus Manziel 2, where great game. We pulled out the victory on that one. But I want to say something about the Texas A&M fans. I have never met people that were so nice that it scared me. Like, they were so absolutely welcoming and nice. Like, me and my friend, after this game is over, we take a picture with a life-size cutout of Johnny Manziel after we just won, and they were so happy to take the picture with us. Get to the car, and our driver's not there yet. An Aggie fan, and I wish this guy would hear this and come back and talk to us, but he unpacked his entire car to make us a cheeseburger because we were standing there with nobody at the car. I mean, it was so nice that it was scary.
That's Texas hospitality, y'all.
Well, I love it.
You don't get
that Manziel magic that you talked about, okay? That exists in other places in the SEC, and we like to fondly talk about Jordan-Hare Stadium down in Auburn on the Plains as the Native American burial ground, because the craziest crap happens down there, especially when Bama's in the stadium. Right. So if y'all could fly Manziel down to that stadium, and I shouldn't tell you this because I'm wanting Bama to win, but if y'all could fly Manziel down to that stadium, that might be just enough juju to get it done.
It could be, man. I swear I don't know what he's got in him other than, probably still some illicit drugs from back in the day. But whatever he's got, man, he knows how to use it.
No doubt about that. And there is absolutely no doubt about that. So why don't you go ahead, Justin?
Well, I was going to bring up a point about the A&M defense you spoke about a few minutes ago. Outside of Georgia, of course, Georgia's defense is absolutely phenomenal, especially up front. But I feel like Texas A&M's defense really isn't getting the pop it deserves, especially up front. Of course, DeMarvin Leal and his crew, man. Talk about how great this defense really is. Because now that the offense is clicking and doing what they're supposed to do, the defense is really able to settle in and do their thing. And they're going up against an Auburn team that's really getting a lot of pop right now, especially with Bo Nix doing his. He's finally coming on. You got that run back room. He's really doing some things. But tell me about your defense. We don't hear enough about it. and why we should respect that defense more.
Man, I'll tell you what, Mike Elko has this defense playing like a NFL defense that's played together and gelled for years. You know, their chemistry is amazing. DeMarvin Leal that guy's going to be playing on Sundays here shortly.
He's a beast.
And he is a beast. I liken him to a name everyone here in DFW recognizes and up in Pennsylvania, but Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
That
dude's a beast.
By the Cowboys, and he's lighting it up here his rookie season in Dallas. And, man, DeMarvin Leal's got every bit of that in him. He's a ball hog. He can read the offenses seemingly before the play starts. And, you know, that's a special talent right there. And it's Leon Smith Jr. in the secondary, man, that kid's probably the second best player on the defense, and he'd be the best player on any other defense. This team just seems to gel, you know, and I think they're a little underrated. They do get talked about quite a bit, but I don't think they get their fair share of, you know, top 5 in the country or top 3 in the SEC talk nearly enough. Because I think that's where they are. They're amazing, especially the first half of the season. And really, when you think about the way the defense has held things together through the tribulations of this team during the struggles of the offense against Arkansas and Mississippi State, even Colorado. When you look at the second game of the season, the Aggies had against an unranked Colorado team at the time. I think the Aggies were they were still a top 10 team at the time after the win against Kent State, but. You know, the offense struggled. That's the game that our quarterback, Haynes King, went down, broke his ankle. We saw Zach Calzada for the first time, and he clearly was not ready to play. And the Aggies trailed the majority of that game 10-3. And it took a last-minute, fourth-quarter game-winning drive by Calzada to win that game. 7-3. The Aggies won the game 10-3, or 10-7. I'm sorry. It's early over here in Dallas still.
I feel you.
And, man, the defense just shut everything down. Again, it was Colorado. It was a neutral site field. But, man, you know, up there in Denver, things are, you know, the altitude can get to you. But, man, that defense just did not quit. And they've done that all season, keeping the Aggies in games. I feel like they kept the Aggies in the Arkansas game just as long as they possibly could before just everything imploded. They didn't play very well against Mississippi State. But, I mean, look what they did against Alabama. I mean, that's the first time I've seen a defense really shut down a Nick Saban offense like that in a long, long time. And I just feel like they don't get a ton of credit. South Carolina had 13 total yards of offense going into the fourth quarter.
Well, let me ask you a question. Speaking of that defense, they're going up against a rushing attack today that's two-headed beast, man. It is a monster. And how do you think that Texas A&M front is going to handle Tank Bigsby and our buddy Ja?
Well, you know, this offensive line, it's been decimated with injuries. It's all pretty much all freshmen except for Kenyon Green up front, the anchor of that offensive line. Mm-hmm. But would you ask me about the offensive line or the defense? I'm sorry.
No, I asked you how their defensive line is going to handle the rushing attack of Auburn today.
My bad. You said two-headed monster. I was thinking of the Aggies running game.
Yeah, they got one too. You're right.
They got one too.
We'll talk about that too in a minute.
Yeah, my apologies. No, man, I just think Mike Elko is going to have them prepared. And that rushing attack of Auburn's that's not anything that I think they haven't seen this season.
Sure.
I think it's good. I don't think it's special. So
if you can stop it, they really don't have anything after that. So that's the key.
Absolutely. You know, Bo Nix was really, really hyped, you know, because of who he is coming to Auburn. And I was pretty excited for him back in the day. I just don't think he's really shown a lot as an SEC quarterback. Not that he's bad, but I just don't think he's as great as maybe everybody thought he was going to be.
Could it possibly be a system thing there?
It very well could be. But I would think that by now, they would have adjusted a little bit to him to make him look a little bit better, and that hasn't happened. That's either on Bo or that's on the coaching staff.
Well, they usually hold those adjustments for the Iron Bowl.
They do.
or November in general, because it seems like I was saying earlier, Auburn can play like absolute crap the first half of the season, and then November, it's a totally different Auburn team.
Yeah. See Cam Newton year.
Yeah.
But as far as Bo Nix goes, I think a lot of his development was hindered because Gus Malzahn just couldn't develop quarterbacks.
Well, his offensive scheme didn't allow him to develop quarterbacks. When you run the veer, you're not going to have a great passing game unless it's just play action or gimmicks, right?
Right.
But let's talk about your offense, man. Y'all have some weapons, like you said, the two-headed monster, Isaiah Spiller, Devin Achane. They got Nia Smith out wide, and Jalen Weidemeyer, who's a matchup nightmare for anybody. He's finally getting the ball. The first part of the season, he wasn't. Of course, against Alabama, that's when he had his coming out party. Damn it. But to talk about the offense and how it's evolving, because it wasn't just a one-game thing against Alabama. It's been consistent. I get the opponents may not be top tier. However, it's continuing to build each week, and that's what you like to see as a coach.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing coming into this game is starting fast and starting early against the Auburn defense. You want to put some points up early. Again, Zach Calzada has been very average to mediocre since the Alabama game. And I think this is going to be a tough one for the Aggies, quite honestly. And I think it is going to come down to the offensive play of both teams.
Sure.
Whoever can get things going and keep things going. It may be a low-scoring game. I mean, I think I had the score, 21-17 as a final. I wasn't even sure which team, to be quite honest with you. I'd like to pick the Aggies, but, man, after watching Auburn the last couple of weeks, I'm just not too sure. Now it is at Kyle Field, so that's
you're seeing my eyes light up over here because you just said something that hits to my heart really close. So I pay attention to the gambling spreads a lot. We talk a little bit gambling here on this show a lot of times. And if your 21-17 plays out either direction, Auburn covers both ways because it's a 5.5 point spread. So all you gamblers out there, you got an expert right here giving you a score. Pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and trust me, we talk a bit about that on a couple of my podcasts as well. So it's I just don't think that either offense is going to shine today. But yeah, if you want to give one of the defenses an edge, I'd give the Aggies defense an edge right now. But again, I think it's just going to come down to who can play 4 quarters of football and keep it going.
No, I agree with you 100% on that one because. We've seen this Aggie team, and, as of late, we've seen a much better Aggie team. Let's, hope they don't revert at any point during the season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree with that.
Well, I've got another question for you that's a little bit off of college football because several of our always listeners are Cowboy fans. So Cowboys having a hell of a season. Had a little bit of bad luck lately. Can you just give us like a 2-minute, something on the Cowboys for all of our Cowboy fans?
2 minutes, something on the Cowboys. Well, I'll tell you what. Dak Prescott for MVP.
Sure.
Yes.
His shoulder, his ankle, everything, his calf. He's 100% healthy at this point.
Okay.
And moving forward into the season, of course, Denver tomorrow. Let me look at their schedule. Denver tomorrow, Atlanta. Then you've got a struggling Kansas City, Raiders. The Saints might be the best team on the schedule right now, to be honest with you, coming up.
That's not a bad run there. The Raiders are, you write them off. They're done. I mean, they're losing their quarterback, losing their best wide receiver.
Right. And I would agree. I'm a Saints fan too. I'm from down there, so I mean it's kind of tough for me to see that. But I don't know who's going to play quarterback for them, to be quite honest with you right now. But Cowboys wise, defense is gelling. The defense. This is not the defense we saw last season under Mike Nolan, of course. Dan Quinn's got this defense gelling. Again, Micah Parsons is having a beast of a rookie season. Randy Gregory on the end has been the Randy Gregory we all knew that he could be the last several years if he could have just kept his head clean and kept his mental health at bay. And now finally he's committed to the game and to the team, and look what he's doing. I mean, he's a beast right now. Tank Lawrence is coming back from his broken foot. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. Then you're going to have to deal with Micah Parsons, Randy Gregory, and then DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, and Micah Parsons all coming at you at the same time. We've got a better interior right now. Neville Gallimore's coming back. Excuse me. Osa Odigizua has been from out of UCLA. Has just been a beast too, coming from the interior in his rookie season. He's another draft pick. The Cowboys drafted
great draft. That's what I was hoping you'd get to. What a draft this year. Good God.
8 out of 11 players on the defensive side of the ball, and they needed it. And for the most part, they're all playing well.
Role
Kelvin
players.
Joseph, the second-round pick cornerback out of Kentucky, he's been injured. Chauncey Golston out of Iowa, the defensive end, he's been a little bit hobbled, but he's coming on. So really, there's not any. And of course, everybody knows Jabril Cox out of LSU tore his ACL the last game, so he's out. But man, he was coming on so strong that the Cowboys felt that it was okay to go ahead and cut Jalen Smith, who's been a disappointment, quite honestly, out of Notre Dame.
No doubt. Well,
he just got cut from the Packers, didn't he?
He was released from the Packers. Yeah,
released. Yeah.
Well, I know our NFL guru, huge Cowboys fan, loved that little bit right there. So we appreciate you for jumping off college football for a second on that.
As an Alabama guy, man, I want to hear about Trayvon Diggs. Come on, let's get.
Oh yeah, come on! You missed our heart and soul.
I was wondering when somebody was going to bring that up.
Try to avoid the Alabama talk, huh?
It's quite honestly, the Trayvon Diggs story here in Dallas is kind of a contentious one because you've got some football purists, some Cowboy purists that, of course, we watched him in his rookie season last year, and he struggled early on, but he's a rookie. Okay, of course he's going to struggle early on. He didn't have help. He kind of found he's playing under
played cornerback for 2 years.
Yeah, he's playing under Mike Nolan last season. It's his rookie year. Cut the guy a break. He kind of found it later in the season, but boy, coming on this season, of course, six consecutive games with an interception. He had 2 against Carolina. He's on pace to slaughter the Cowboys single season interception record held by Everson Walls from 1981. That's 11. The NFL record's 14. He's still on pace for that. He didn't have one against Minnesota, but he's still got 7 now through 7 games. But it's funny. He's kind of a contentious story here in Dallas because a lot of people don't like his style of play. They said he's a little too loosey-goosey. He's too much of a gambler. He still gives up a lot of yards. He still can allow the big play. And I will tell those guys, as I have on our podcasts and on radio interviews here in Dallas, that you got to let the guy play. Look at what he did in Alabama. Nick Saban's known as sort of a defensive backs guru, right? Mm-hmm. And he likes to keep his thumb on those boys, and he likes to control their game and teach. He didn't do that with Trayvon Diggs. He let Trayvon Diggs play. He let him gamble because he knew that was his game, and he knew that's how effective he was going to be. You don't doubt what Nick Saban does with a player, okay? So let him do that in Dallas, and Dan Quinn has done that. Mike McCarthy has done that. The defensive players love Trayvon Diggs. He's a boost in the locker room. He's one of my favorite Cowboys right now, to be quite honest with you, on the defensive side of the ball. I love that he's wearing number 7. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great look for a defensive back. And man, he's him and Parsons probably the 2 defensive MVPs of the season so far.
Absolutely. Parsons, wow. I mean, when he kind of opted out for his last season at Penn State, because I'd watched him the year before that and was very impressed with him. I had a little, I was just like, oh, how's he going to do after he opts out? That didn't work great for everybody. We talked about Jamie Newman going to Georgia earlier, and that definitely didn't work out, but it worked out perfectly for him. And before I jump off to the next topic, I want to comment on something you said. Saban letting him play his style. His style's different than other defensive backs because he's a former wide receiver, right? I mean, he comes in, he's got ball skills. He knows how to put himself in position to get the ball, right? And it's, if he's not playing exactly like all the other corners, it confuses the quarterback a little bit. So there's some benefits to that, I would say. And I agree with you 100% on letting the kid play because it seems to be working.
Absolutely.
Well, all right, let me reel you over to college football one more time again because we've got another game that I think might be on your radar, and it's the Arkansas versus Mississippi State game today. You got any thoughts on that one?
Arkansas' season's been very much like A&M's season. I really like Will Rogers. Man, I think he's got some skills. He's been dominating now, for a couple of games. Especially against Kentucky. What a big win that Kentucky. I mean, that was their Alabama win for, if you want to compare their season to the Aggies at all.
Sure.
The defense has stepped up here. Arkansas, again, I think they're 2 very similar teams. And this one, I think, is much like the A&M and Auburn game. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a little more high scoring. You're probably looking at both teams hitting the 30 mark here. Just because of high powered and how consistent their offenses have been lately. I'm looking for probably a 35-31 Mississippi
Okay.
State win, to be quite honest with you.
Got it. Like that. Going in there and taking the victory. I think our guy Petty also is picking that game this week. And the Ole Miss fans, I think they ought to keep an eye on this game too, because Arkansas and Ole Miss look a lot alike on defense and a little bit alike on offense. They play a similar style of football, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes up against their in-state rival, because going to Starkville is never a good thing for those guys.
No. Not at all. And, I mean, I tell you what, this story of, the Liberty story, it's a good one. And then this week you've got, of course, Matt Corral. His story's been great. I think he's sort of fallen off the Heisman watch a little bit, in my opinion.
He's just banged up.
He's just banged
really
up.
by no fault of his own.
Right.
Yeah, no. And he's going to be great on Sundays, one of
Sure.
these days. And then the Liberty quarterback, I forget his name, Willis?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis, yes. His little Heisman watch story was cute, at the beginning of the season.
Cute, yeah.
But, no, not to take anything away from him. I mean, he's a good guy. He's going to be a good quarterback moving forward. But, I just think Ole Miss has got too many weapons. I think the roster top to bottom's clearly better than Liberty's. Now, this one's I think Liberty's going to play them tight, and I think Liberty's going to be able to score some points. This is another one of those games I think it's going to be somewhat high scoring. You're probably looking at like a 34-28 Ole Miss win. And
Okay.
I mean, when I say win, I mean they pull it out a little bit late in the game.
I like that too. I mean, you see these kind of up and coming smaller schools, and when they run up against the big schools, they can hang with them as long as their first string doesn't get tired. And when the depth starts taking over, SEC just we just got a lot more depth. I mean, even almost all the way down to Vanderbilt. Leave them out because, dear God, what a shit show. But I do think that when you get in the fourth quarter, it's going to be all Ole Miss.
Absolutely, agree 100%.
Heck yeah. Well,
if Ole Miss is healthy, though, it's not even a conversation. It's going to be a blowout win. But since they're pretty much down to what you say, 2 out of 11 starters are playing now because of injury.
So that was a fact that came out earlier this week. 2 out of the original starters for Ole Miss's offense is all that was practicing this week.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are debilitated. Yep. Yeah. Good thing for Ole Miss, though, is their defense is kind of coming around a little bit toward the end of the season. They're getting a little bit better. They're blitzing some people now and then instead of just trying to play a 3-man offensive front in the SEC, which blows my mind.
Man, if you can make that work, you deserve it. Because in the SEC, that doesn't work.
Yeah, our other co-host, he's not here right now, but I'll throw in his quote. He's like, if you got Richard Sherman and Ronnie Lott and a few of those guys back there, then yeah, you can run a 3-2-6, but I don't know if you're doing it right now.
Well, before we let you go, if you would, man, give a final synopsis on your game today. It's a very important game, like I said. Not getting the notoriety it should be, considering that the West is very much alive right now. Give us a final score. Also, give us a player or two that maybe that we should be paying attention more than what we are.
Well, I tell you what. Again, I think the two teams, Auburn and Texas A&M, very closely resemble each other. They both had whirlwind seasons. Of course, A&M started in the top 10, then completely fell out of the top 25, then back in the top 15 now at number 13.
Yeah, thanks a lot for being unranked when you beat us. I've been hearing that shit all year, and I'm tired of it.
By the way, that's one of the many little gripes that Danny Cannell has is Alabama lost to an unranked Texas A&M team, and Oklahoma still won over Kansas. There's a great difference between Kansas and Texas A&M. Let's just leave it at that. But sorry for that little soapbox. Go ahead.
No, that's what Danny Cannell needs to go back to where he came from. I think I don't agree with a lot of what he says.
100% with you, but he's just a troll, and that's how he gets listeners, by us commenting and being mad at what he says. So I've quit responding to him like you would do a kid that's getting on your nerves.
I got 6 of those things here in my house, so trust me, I know how to tune that stuff out.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, Saturdays when the TV's on.
I want to say a little something, about your show. Justin and I are both big fans of the Drunken Sports podcast, and why don't you tell our fans a little bit about it, because I'm sure they would enjoy getting over there and taking a listen.
They definitely need to.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was our first show on our podcast, and it just started out me and a buddy literally in his garage on a Sunday night drinking, and had a handheld tape recorder about 3.5 years ago, and that's how it started. And it's grown. We do it live on location now, and it's literally just us, my buddy Colby Stapp and my friend Lance Dorsett that lives up in Missouri now, and he does it remote, kind of like what we're doing here.
Sure.
But we literally do it live in a bar here in DFW every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, and we talk a little bit of sports, of course. It's pretty Cowboys and NFL centric. We do a little bit of NBA, some NHL talk during those seasons, but a lot of times it's just us having fun doing guy bits. And as a matter of fact, we did a bracketology segment last Wednesday where we ranked the potato dishes. So I seeded different ways to cook a potato, 1 through 16, and we went down our brackets and we voted for them. Potato salad came out on top, by the way.
Potato salad came out on top. Mind blowing. Now I love potato salad, but give me the top 4 real quick, just so I know. I missed this one. I'm gonna have to go back and listen.
Garlic mashed potatoes, baked potato, and
Sure.
poutine.
Wow, well played. Well played. I'd throw a hash brown casserole in there as a honorable mention.
Hash browns were on there, but they fell early in the first round. I forgot who they fell to.
Oh no, not hash brown, specifically Cracker Barrel hash brown casserole.
Cracker
Much
Barrel,
different.
yeah.
Much
No,
different.
I agree. Those are pretty great.
Well, my favorite.
But we have a lot of fun bits, and we do a lot of stuff like that. We'll do a top 10 list occasionally, or we'll do an Ask Me Anything live segment on YouTube, or sometimes we'll do a Would You Rather. We'll answer some hypothetical would you rather question, and we're all just sitting there drinking, having a good time, and it's a 2-hour show. And by the last 30 minutes, we're pretty snookered, and it's
Slurry a little,
slurring our words a little bit, and it's a lot of fun.
I can feel that if you go listen to any of our extra long podcasts. Like most of ours are probably 40 minutes to an hour, but if you pick up one of those 2.5-hour ones, it's going to be hard to understand me toward the end.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I go back and watch my shows, and I'm like, it's funny. Last night I don't remember ending the show, and I've got to go back and watch the video to see how we ended it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have to go back and retake notes so I can write the description. Yeah, I have absolutely been there on that. Well, another question I want to ask you. Well, first off, you said podcasts early. So you've got several. Huh? Why don't you give us a list of what you got so I can go subscribe to all of them?
Yeah, so I've started a little media conglomerate called DSP Media. DSP stands for Drunk Sports Podcast because that was our first show. So DSPmediaonline.com is where you can find all of our shows. We're very sports centralized here. We've got Dallas Cowboys Daily Blitz, a Texas A&M Daily Blitz, a Longhorns Daily Blitz, Buckeyes, of course, the Drunk Sports Podcast. We've got a fantasy football show, a golf show, a health fitness show, a comic book movie podcast. We've got a podcast that my 11-year or my God, I say down on the air, he's going to shoot me. My 13 does with me, where it's basically we just delve into the mind of a 13-year-old boy, and it's and then
That's cool.
one of our
sounds pretty fun.
shows is one of our great flagship shows is the Fish Report with Mike Fisher, who's been a Dallas Cowboys insider over at the Star since 1990. And he comes on and does his spouting his knowledge of Cowboys. If you're a Cowboys fan, you need to check him out definitely each day. All of these shows, for the most part, are on YouTube. We've got links to them, on DSPmediaonline.com. But it's always a good time.
Well, I noticed you didn't have a Crimson Tide Daily on there. You know who to call when that comes up.
And I get asked about Crimson Tide a lot. I've been asked for some reason about Vanderbilt. I don't know who wants to hear about Vanderbilt.
Hey, man, I am a former season ticket holder of the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Bama was playing them there one year, and it was like $200 for a ticket, but I could get season tickets for $80. So.
Season tickets for $80. That's like one game at Alabama.
Absolutely. And let me tell you something. There's nothing better to do at 11 o'clock than to walk over to the Vandy Stadium from your house in Nashville and sit down and gamble on a Vandy versus Arkansas game. Win some cash.
I can see that.
Look, when I was single when I was living there, and the population of smart, pretty girls at Vanderbilt's pretty high, so I liked hanging out on that campus.
No, I've been to the campus. It's gorgeous. The scenery's nice for sure.
Doesn't touch Ole Miss when it comes to girls, though. I married a girl from
I
there.
will
Much
say,
prettier.
a road trip at Vandy is probably one of my favorite as an Alabama fan because of what you just said, and then being in downtown Nashville after the game, celebrating a win. Lots of fun, man. You gotta love Nashville.
Yeah, no doubt.
Great party town.
It is.
I have to go back to your bracketology, man. I really enjoyed that one that you had regarding kids' TV shows.
Yeah,
we
did. Yeah,
a little emotionally involved in that one.
We did a 4-part series of TV show theme songs, and one of the brackets was kids. We did current sitcoms, we did classic sitcoms, and then we did like dramas. And Hawaii 5-0 won all 4 brackets. It was the winner in the finals. So.
Oh wow.
That's
awesome.
I mean, like we just have fun with stuff like that, just doing stupid stuff.
I was mad because I think Thundercats or either He-Man, I forgot which one it was, got put up by somebody that they had no business losing to, and I was frustrated the whole show.
Man, Thundercats was a cult show. I loved that. That was my number one for a few years.
It's amazing to me how emotionally involved people get in their kids' TV shows. You know,
Sure.
I mean, I'm the same way with stuff.
Look, Jetsons Meet the Flintstones is still the best piece of cinema ever put on TV.
I agree, man. I love that era. I love that era too. That's great.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead. Well, Tim, I've got two more thoughts for you when we get through this. Obviously, one of them is we've had your Twitter handle hanging out down there at the bottom of the screen all day. IndyCar Tim, are you a big IndyCar fan? I guess.
So I'm a big IndyCar fan. I have been since the early 80s. Went to, I don't know, countless Indy 500s in a row, probably starting from like 86 all the way through the early aughts. And the moniker came from, that was my very first shot really at radio full time, was in the early 90s. I got on board with a local radio station here in Dallas, doing a motorsports show every Wednesday night from 8 to 10, called Motorsports Weekly. I was the open wheel guy, so the station dubbed me IndyCar Tim. The other guy was a NASCAR guy. He was NASCAR Dennis. So we had Motorsports Weekly with IndyCar Tim and NASCAR Dennis. And that show, it's funny, that show evolved because it was late at night. There wasn't anybody in the studio back then at night. We'd take a 12-pack of beer with us. That's kind of how the drinking on the air started. But that show sort of devolved rapidly from a motorsports show to just got like guy talk.
Two drunk dudes.
But it's funny. It's even now here we are all these years later. I kept an affiliation with that station, and then the 105.3 The Fan that's here in Dallas. It's the big sports station now here locally. I know all those guys, and I'm on occasionally helping them out with some things. And just the name, you mentioned the name IndyCar Tim, and I had no idea about this. People ask me all the time. I stopped using it for a while, and nobody knew who Tim Hamm was on the air. So they're like, no, man, you got to go back to the name people know about. So I'm like, all right. I haven't covered IndyCar in 30 years, but I guess I'll keep using it because that's what people know me by.
That was going to be my next question. Were you still covering or not? But you answered it right there.
Yeah,
awesome.
Actually, I've had some requests for an IndyCar podcast, so we may be starting it back up. You never know.
I would love to go to the Indy 500. That seems like one of the best sporting events in the world. It's right up there with the Kentucky Derby and the Super Bowl and all that. Yep. You know what I mean?
Nothing
well,
like it.
This last few minutes is going to be us bashing our buddy Justin Pole Assassin Riley down there because he apparently doesn't have any respect for men's sex parts. And it's November. This is No Shave November, or Movember as some people call it. And you're the only slick-faced sissy here on the screen today. What do you have to say about that, Justin?
Listen, I have some genetic problems where I cannot connect all my facial hair stuff. I can grow an awesome goatee, man, but I just can't get what y'all got, brother. So yeah, I'm lacking in that department and a little jealous too. So, yeah, I'm the weird one in the group right now. So
yeah,
try harder. My dad always told me to do this. You hold your nose and then you blow.
Blow, yeah. That's the way to do it.
I
yeah.
thought I was going to have to get some like hair club for men on my face or something. I don't know.
Absolutely. Just start rubbing the Rogaine on there and see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I had a friend that used that in college and ended up with a very hairy back. All right. That's fantastic, guys. I think my beard's actually probably going to be about as long as Tim's here by the end of the month, but we'll see. We'll see. Might lose my whole mouth in there. But, Tim, it has been nothing but a treat to get to know you. I hope we can have you back again sometime. And everybody get out there and check out all of Tim's podcasts because I know, for one, the Drunken Sports Podcast is fantastic, and I'm about to find out about the rest of them.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. We enjoyed it, brother. Thank you for coming on.
All right. If you're ever in Charlotte, Tampa, or Birmingham, call us. We'll take you out for a dinner.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
doing it.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Boys.
See you soon.
Appreciate it.
How about that?
That was awesome. I switched sides here.
Oh, yeah. I'll put you in the main box number 1. That way, if we throw you up on feature, you're the guy.
I thought that you were going to put me in like the box of shame since I don't have any beard going on.
Well, you need it. You need it. We could probably get you a beard filter to stick on there, like a Snapchat.
If that filters over here to Restream, man, we might have to do that so I can get some more street cred when I'm on the show.
Well, look, I've already got the Petty's Bloody Mary counter almost finished, so I think next week we're going to be able to have a live count of that. I spent a little bit of time early this morning working on that one, so I'm pretty excited.
I think you should have a contest with that. Like the person who guessed it correctly gets a free T-shirt.
Fan-tinted glasses, maybe a T-shirt, something like that.
T-shirt, fan-tinted glasses, something.
We're working on some really good Week 0 sports T-shirts. One of them is one of our favorite sayings. So, like when we're gambling over at Week 0, the spread obviously can sometimes end on a round number. So if it's -2 and the team wins by 2, you get what's called a push. For those of you that don't gamble, a push means nobody wins. And one of our favorite slogans is pushes are for pushies. And that's going to be one of our T-shirts coming up. And our buddy Daniel has also designed a beer mug T-shirt. And it's actually pretty cool. I can't wait for you guys to see it. Justin's going to step away for just a minute, so I'm going to have to kind of pick up the slack while he's gone. One of the things about doing live video you'll learn is it's kind of hard to step away for a restroom break. That's why you guys lost me a little earlier. And part of the reason for that is I spent 7 days in a tent last week, having, named the day morning cocktails. After that, you will eventually start to feel a little rough. And that's why my Saturday morning cocktail this morning is Liquid IV. And they're not paying me to say this, but if you're feeling a little under the hangover, then that is what you need to get a hold of. So we have actually got our next guest hanging out in the green room right now. And I want to let Justin introduce this guy. So you guys are just going to hang around for a minute. But we do have Wayne Bacon ready to go for you guys. Alabama legend. Hell of a game against LSU in 2002. But I'm going to hold that back for just a moment to let Justin introduce this guy. In the meantime, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Alabama-LSU game. Alabama is going to cover the spread. This is LSU coming back to our house, the house that Mr. Coach O, I believe his quotes were, roll tide what, fuck that, and also, this is our house. We own this house, we own this place, and he'll be coming back home, Coach O, today. And I think he's going to get a very, very rude welcome, not only from the Alabama fans, but also from that Alabama football team. This one might get ugly, fellas. So if you're out there playing it, it seems like LSU may not score much because the defense is going to tighten up and we're going to cover that spread. So go ahead and put your bets in. Also, I will run through our picks from the podcast Thursday night so you guys can know. Our boy Petty had a few good picks for you. He likes Ole Miss -9.5 today against Liberty. Now, that might be a homer pick, so take that with a grain of salt, guys. He's also got UT at UK. All right, Tennessee's going up to Kentucky, and they are a pick'em, which seems kind of odd because Kentucky's had a pretty good season, but that Tennessee Vols team is up and coming. He likes UT to win that game outright, and he's also got the under in the UGA Missouri game, and I think that's because he believes Missouri isn't going to score. And well, that's probably the truth, guys. That's probably the truth. So unless Georgia scores 63 points, which we all believe is probably not going to happen, then this one's going under. So under 59.5. And I think Justin's just about back, so I'll run through my 3 picks really quick as well. I've got Memphis +5.5 with SMU coming to town today. I'm just going against the crowds on that one because there's a lot of money on SMU. I think Memphis can keep it close. All right. Navy at Notre Dame. We saw what Navy and Cincinnati looked like. I'm just hoping it's kind of similar. Mucky game. I've got Navy plus the 20.5 points in that one. And finally, this one is a shocker for everybody that watches football, especially if you watched the Michigan State game last week. I've got Michigan State not covering this 3-point spread at Purdue today. Now, I think they probably win the game by a field goal, but as we said earlier, pushes are for pushies, so we buy the half. We got 3.5 points. That's all I got for you guys, and it looks like Justin's not going to make it back, so I guess I get to do the introduction of our special guest. Oh, here he is. He is back. Justin Riley. Why don't you let it go? Oh, and we just lost Wayne.
Sorry, man. I smelled corn dogs, and I felt nauseous.
All right. Well, if Wayne can get back on there, I'll let him in, but just go ahead and tell us why you were gone for so long, Justin.
I smelled corn dogs, and my stomach started feeling a certain type of way.
Well, you were gone so long that we lost our guest. Like, I can't blame you for
that may be because our guest is on the road. So
he probably lost his internet connection for a minute. Well, we hope we can get back in there because I'm looking forward to talking to him and meeting him. I'm a huge Alabama fan.
I will say, even though he originally was going to be at home doing this, okay, but he had some unscheduled wifely assignments.
Ooh, I know how those go, Wayne.
And
right there with you, buddy.
He said that he still has his drink with him, so he's still.
Hopefully, he's not driving.
No, he's not driving. He's passenger side, but
okay.
He's still committed to the theme of the show. So
well, let's make sure we don't give out the location because if he's not in Tennessee, that's probably still illegal too.
He's not in Tennessee. I will say that. little further north and a lot colder. So.
All right. Well, shoot that guy a text and make sure we saw him in there and he was good to go, but he took too long to get here.
Well, all right. But,
well, when he gets here, we're going to get more into that Alabama LSU game. While you were gone, Justin, I gave my picks from the other show, and I gave Daniel's picks from the other show. And there's one other game that we talked about earlier that was in our picks, and it was that WTF pick, Wake Forest going down to North Carolina, because it makes no sense. We're taking North Carolina.
Listen, that's a game I still don't want to touch. So, but well, like I said earlier, I'm gonna take. Well, can I flip? Am I allowed to flip?
You can flip. You can do whatever you want to. It's your show, bud.
I'll take North Carolina just for no reason. Petty said. But just know that I battled this decision. It really could go either way. I want Wake Forest to be undefeated still, but
I kind of do too.
Which doesn't really mean anything in the whole grand scheme of things because the ACC conference winner absolutely has no bearing on anything in the postseason this year.
Right. Absolutely. Unfortunately, and I hate that for the ACC because, they've given us a couple national champions who got to walk through their regular season schedule to get to the playoffs and get there healthy and everything else. Our boy Petty must be back to listening again. All right, look at that. He was a good boy and didn't ask about dude cheerleaders when we had our Texas A&M guest. Well, that's good, Daniel. You shouldn't do that. It's rude.
I'm actually proud of him that he held that back. He's growing. He's maturing.
Maybe that's because his co-host told him not to the last time Tim was supposed to be here. I was like, can you just not talk about dude cheerleaders for one show while we've got our Texas A&M guest?
I'm surprised that he didn't throw in there something about it being a cult either.
Oh, that's his other one, yeah. He doesn't make friends with Aggie Nation, unfortunately. And you know why? It's because he hasn't been there. He thinks it's not a hard place to play. He thinks all this. Well, you need to show up and watch a game in College Station before you make those kind of determinations, Petty, because it's a legit place.
Well,
it's a home field advantage, big time.
Especially when it's a matchup that has meaning and relevance to it. Whereas when no slight on Ole Miss fans, if you're still watching. There really hasn't been any relevance to that matchup. Well, I guess in the whole the history of the series yet, but it will next week.
It will next week. So we got Wayne getting back in the green room now.
All right.
No, I was asking you. I don't know if you get in touch with him. We have to see when you're running a show this small and you don't have an intern. Plug. Anyone wants to be a video production, audio production intern for Week Zero Entertainment, info at Week Zero Sports. Send us your resume. Tell us why you want to work with us, and we can find you some work to do. We can even train you to do this stuff. We can't pay you yet, but we may be able to one day. So, again, if you're interested in video production, audio production, you want to be a guy that changes the screens and puts pretty little things at the bottom, we would love to have you because it's very difficult to run the show and be on the show at the same time. Well, let's just go ahead and get into the Bama game. Let's talk about it. Justin, keys to the game. Whenever Wayne gets here, I'm going to break you off, and we'll bring him in.
Biggest key to the game for me, Alabama, show up. That's essentially all you have to do. Be where you're supposed to be. Do the things you're supposed to do. It's as simple as that because the game plan doesn't get any easier. Everything's laid out for you. LSU is reeling. They had to assemble some flag football players just to field a team this week. They're not motivated. Don't give them any reason to be motivated. So just come out there, take them out early, use that anger from 2019, and just beat the hell out of them. I do have one request though.
Okay.
I'd like to fill a missing persons report for Jaleel Billingsley.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Where's that guy been?
This is a game where last year this is kind of when Jaleel Billingsley's coming out party was.
All right, well, I'm going to have to pause you right now because we have got our guy Wayne back in. I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce him, and I'm going to bring him in.
With drink in hand.
Better have a drink in hand for the cocktail
Well,
show. That's right.
I'm about to park. I'm driving. I got my designated driver about to.
Heard us giving you a little bit of slack about that one, huh? We better be in that passenger seat.
I just appreciate the dedication to the theme of the show, bud.
That's right.
But ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to
passengers.
yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited to have on one of the baddest defensive backs that Alabama has ever put on the field. A man that helped us to have some of the best defensive performances in the early 2000s, and went on to do his thing with the Indianapolis Colts, Mr. Wayne Bacon.
Good. How you
Great to meet you, Mr. Bacon.
today?
But yeah, as I said, he's dedicated to it. What you got to drink this morning, man?
Well, this morning I'm gonna go with a little bit of Uncle Nearest.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Bring
get
the
some
Zane.
details on that. How do you pour it up? Ice.
Look, I'm about to show you. I got.
All right.
The phone. Hold on.
You're the first guest who's actually
Made a drink
participating in this.
live.
So we're pretty excited about it.
I got my ice cube right here. One ice cube. I didn't want to bring the bottle out because that would look a little odd if it's early
Sure.
morning here.
He's being safe. I
So
like that.
I'm just gonna pour it up.
Well, I'm gonna have one with you. I'm gonna pour a little bit of this Michter Sour Mash whiskey in my coffee, and we'll enjoy a little cocktail together because that is the name of the show, Saturday Morning Cocktail Kickoff, right?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I'm out of coffee, so I'm drinking straight whiskey now, guys. So buckle your
That's how
safety
you're
belt.
supposed to do it.
That's the
Cheers.
that's the real man's coffee. Don't apologize for that.
Yeah.
But man, LSU game. This is a pretty big game for you, man. Back in 2002, a lot of people weren't really talking about this. They kind of assumed that Nick Saban's crew at that time. I know we don't like to talk about Nick Saban being anywhere else, but we weren't getting a whole lot of eyeballs for this game, and we happened to go down to Baton Rouge and remind everyone who exactly the Alabama Crimson Tide were. So, and a certain gentleman right here was Defensive Player of the Week. So let's talk about that, brother. Tell me about the week leading up to it, what the practices were like, and what the mindset was going into Baton Rouge. I know the season we were pretty much playing on pride because we couldn't go to a bowl game at that point because of bowl ban, but we were still having a pretty special year. And LSU week, always a special week. But, man, talk to us about that week leading up to the game.
It was a big week. If you remember the year before, LSU came to Bryant Denny and did they set records on us.
Rohan Davey, yes, I remember.
Rohan Davey, Josh Reed. It was bad, and we were better than that. We were trying to find our identity as a defense, and we went along. We had by four. Really front seven. I mean, we had some studs in Derek Pope, Jared Jackson, Kenny King, Brooks. At the time, absolutely dominated.
I think we lost you for a little bit there, Wayne. Your signal faded out. A little bit. Hey, in the midst of that, we have a compliment from one of our audience members for you. I don't know if you can see that on your screen. Michael, I can't hear you now.
Are y'all there?
All
Hey,
right,
I'm here.
sorry about that, guys. Yeah, it sounded like we just had a maybe a restream glitch on that one because I went out for a second too.
No, we kind of lost you as you were talking about the previous year where, of course, Rohan Davey and Josh Reed, torched us to the tune of 500-something yards. And you were talking about how that kind of was the fuel going into that this game we were talking about. And then we kind of lost you after that.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't get it. If you need to be motivated after what happened to us the year before, you didn't need to be on that defense. And we had some leaders on that defense. Our defensive line was all studs. Our linebackers were good, and we had a secondary that was made of all veterans. And we were better than what we put out the year before. And we went into the game with a good game plan. And like I said, if you needed any motivation other than looking at the results from the year before, you didn't need to be on that field. And we went to Baton Rouge, and we completely tore them apart.
Yeah, shutout.
Shut out.
Shut out.
And we were the first Alabama team to go in there and shut them out in Baton Rouge, I believe.
God, man, that's a good one. That's a good record to own right there.
Yeah.
Especially with the talent that was on that offense that you were playing up against.
Yeah, they had some really good talent on that offense.
So when you were playing at Bama or when you were playing in the NFL, was there ever a player that you went up against or that you just saw on the other side of the field that just made you say, damn?
Auburn had a running back combination. They had Cadillac Williams and
Ronnie Brown. Yeah. Brandon Jacobs, too.
Luckily, he didn't touch the field.
Oh, good deal. He's a big boy.
Oh, yeah, he was a big boy. But those two, it didn't get much better than that. Now, we played some good backs, but like I said, we were one of the top defenses in the country that year. But that combination that they had with those two backs, that's tough to defend, and we did a pretty good job against them.
Hell, NFL had trouble with those guys.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah.
Those were two really
Super
good
Bowls,
guys.
baby. I think they did they all three get a Super Bowl? I know Jacobs got one with the Giants. I'm pretty sure Cadillac was on that Tampa.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was.
I don't think Ronnie Brown did.
Gotcha.
No, he never got one.
That's a backfield, buddy. Wow. You're right.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Alabama backfields before they really had them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Since
think about that Najee, Derrick Henry, and whoever else was on that. Good Lord.
Since we're a little bit on the NFL side, before we could jump back to the whole college side of things, a lot of the former players talk about how once they got to the NFL, everything was so much easier. That the Alabama practices, the training and whatnot, were probably 100 times harder. Do you feel that's true?
Absolutely. It was absolutely true, 100%. We got after it in practice every day. And AC was talking about holding account. You wasn't thinking about if anybody wasn't prepared. We prepared, practice, we got on thing. To have that for cakewalk. I mean, it was just easy after going through 2 days. And
Now, I do have to bring up, because you talked about this last time you were on the Bama Standard, going up against Peyton Manning in practice. You said that he used to get really motivated or pissed off when you would pick him off, man. Could you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I was I always guarded Marvin Harrison in practice. And
Lucky
now believe me, they got the best of me, but I gave them fits. And every single time, especially in training camps, Peyton Manning, if you pick him off, I don't care who you are, you could be anybody. If you pick him off, he's coming right back at you. And he's gonna, I don't care what plays are called, he's gonna make sure that he picks on you the whole day. He's always throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison, so I got my work in, and it made me a better player.
Now, did he do that to other teams in games?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
Well, I've got a question that I've been dying to ask somebody that played against Nick Saban, who is now an Alabama fan, right? Because when he coached for LSU, buddy, I hated that little dude. I called him Nick Satan and everything else you could think of. And when their team got off the bus, I said, they're all on steroids. There's no way they can be that big. What do you think about Nick Saban before he came to Alabama and now?
Before he came to Alabama, I couldn't say his name.
All right, me too.
But what he's done, let's say this, before we touch what he's done on the field, what he means for his players off the field after their Alabama careers, whether they're in the NFL or whether they're just professionals in everyday life, he has a part in his players' life, which a lot of coaches don't do. So one, that's the most important thing. He's big on developing men to progress in society, and a lot of coaches don't care about what you do when you can't do anything more for them. And that's the biggest compliment I could ever give Nick Saban. I personally don't know him, but I know people that he's coached. I know people that I know people that are still in touch with the Alabama program, and that is about the biggest compliment. I don't care how good you are as a football coach, but if you care about the individual as a person, you'll be a person way longer than you'll be a football player. So that right there is the best compliment I can give Nick Saban. What he's done for this program, what he's done for those individuals on the field, that team, words can't describe. And to have a role model like Nick Saban, to have a leader like Nick Saban is unheard of.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people
Absolutely.
outside of the Bama Nation really don't see what you're talking about. They just see the guy that gets riled up during the press conferences, and mainly because people ask a lot of stupid questions or questions that are specifically designated to piss him off. So they really don't understand the relationships he built. You can look at everything, his body language and the way he talks to players and the way he talks about players. There is deep-seated love he has for those guys. And
You look at those videos of them riding the boat.
Absolutely. I mean, when this man goes into these kids' homes before they touch Tuscaloosa, he makes a bond with them at that moment, whether they go to Alabama or not. And to have someone that can come in your living room is not going to promise you the world, but he can promise what he's going to do for you as a man and a student athlete, that's big. A lot of promises are given by college coaches, college recruiters, that they can't hold up. But when Nick Saban comes in and he tells you, I'm not going to do this for you, I'm not going to do this for you, but what I can promise you is I'm going to develop you as a man, I'm going to develop you as a student athlete, and I'm going to prepare you for the next level of your career, whether it's in football or whether it's in the regular world. So a lot of teams don't get that. A lot of programs don't get that from coaches, from their head coach. And Nick Saban could walk away from this game today and be happy with what he's done. But he wants to continue to pour into the live student athletes that he has at Alabama. And that, like, to have the legacy that he has and to want to contribute to the lives of the young kids that he touches on a daily basis, because I don't care if it's an off day, he is in those kids' lives. The whole coaching staff program is in the kids' lives. And to want to continue to do that when you can just walk away and have the greatest college football legacy as a coach it says a lot about the individual.
Sure does. It absolutely does. He definitely inspires me. And again, when he was at LSU, I respected him, but man, I didn't like him.
Absolutely do. But man, I didn't like him either.
No, that's right. None of us did. The second he signed on the dotted line for Alabama, though, boy, my feelings changed almost instantly.
I remember when that plane landed from Miami. When I got, I think I got a text message from my cousin that said, "The University of Alabama's airplane is in Miami." I said, "Yes."
Yes. You know what you said about Saban, though? It kind of strikes me that some of the stories from his NFL, I have a hard time believing some of the stories I hear from his NFL career. One especially where they talk about him stepping over an injured guy in the practice facility out there, like there was, and not having any compassion. I just don't believe that story because of the things I've seen from him since he's been at Alabama and even before that. He's in between towers right now, I think.
Oh, I got you.
Going down the highway sometimes.
Can y'all hear me?
Or you're kind of fading in and out on us. You're coming back
faded
now.
out.
There you go. You're coming back now.
Okay.
We got you.
All right. So
Oh, then we lost him immediately. He's coming back. I got him back.
Build up was there.
All right, now we got a good picture back.
okay,
Your
sorry
turn.
about that. Sorry about that. There's a difference in NFL and in college. You have players in the NFL that are making so much money, so much more money than the head coach, is that they don't respect the coaches the way that kids in college respect these coaches. And
That makes sense.
You know, they're the big guy. You know, when these owners commit money to the players, a lot of players in the NFL, and I learned this from being in the NFL, think that they're going to outlast the head coach. So the coaches don't get the respect that they deserve in the NFL. So, you know, I can't say if the stories are true or not, but I have heard stories about Saban in the NFL. I had a couple of friends that he coached in Miami, and I've heard good and bad. But
Gotcha.
to see what goes on now, you know, it's hard to believe. You know, Saban may have released the player, and the player may not feel the same way about Saban that he should. So,
Gotcha.
Oh, without a doubt. Of course, if you've been tuning in to the Bama Standard pretty regularly, and one of the things we've talked about, and to kind of go with what your point about as far as the money and players not respecting coaches, I think it's kind of filtering down now to the college arena, because you've got the guys with the NIL situation coming in. And you also, and they're feeling some type of way because they're not getting the deals they feel like they should get, or you have guys who are having to wait their turn on the bench, but they're feeling some type of way because their buddy over here is getting the NIL money. They got a nice ride, and they're having to wait, and they got that on their mind. But then also too, they're using that 4-star, 5-star status that I've said, you know, to exhaustion coming into play. Do you agree that maybe on the college level that respect is kind of deteriorating just a little bit, or maybe even a lot?
I have mixed emotions about the NIL, because I've always been in favor of players being paid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the NCAA, the school itself, they make so much money off the likeness of these players,
Sure.
and the players get nothing. Now, granted, I'm not going to say they get nothing. A free education, because most people that leave college, they walk away with college loans that they're paying back 20, 30 years.
Right.
So you do get the free education, the room and board, everything, and I agree with that. But when you have an organization making billions and billions of dollars off of you, I agree with the NIL. Now, what I have pause on is handing these players money that they may not be ready for, because when I was in college, Alabama did a good job of educating us, but I wish before I went to the NFL, I had more financial education.
Sure.
And to see the size of the deals that these kids in college are signing nowadays, I love it for them, but I hope they're prepared, because money can ruin people.
Sure. No, that's very,
not
very
prepared for
true.
it.
Very, very true. And you can see that still to this day, even with the amount. I know that players are getting even more financial education than they did back when you were there, but you still see players having huge financial struggles that had $80 million signing bonuses and things like this. And it's just, it sucks for them, because, if they had the right education and everything, they'd be set for life,
Absolutely. You got to realize what you got to do is you have to take advantage of the money that you're going to get now in college, and before you get to the NFL, because once your NFL career is over, 9 times out of 10, unless you make great business plans, you're not going to get that kind of money when you go into the 9-to-5 life.
Right.
And so you have to capitalize on what you have at the moment that you have, and you have to plan for the future, not for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I've got another question about coaching before we get off of that, because I was in school when you were there. I remember having a piece of bacon on hand for when you made a good play pull up and cheers with my buddies and eat it, right? So I remember this very well. Okay, so, and I know that you played for a coach that while he was there, we all pretty much loved, but the second he left, we were no longer fans because of kind of how it felt to us when he left. And I know that may have been your last year. I may be a little wrong on that, but I think that was your last year. Were you there during that kind of fallout? And how did that all happen? And from a player's perspective, how did you guys feel?
So here's the thing. That's a coach that didn't actually see eye to eye with me all the time.
Okay.
And I felt that I was in a position where he had no choice but to play me.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Wow.
Not to diminish any player that was behind me, but I was better. And I don't, and again, I don't say that to diminish anything or anyone that was behind me. Now, one of the people that were behind, he wasn't necessarily behind me at my position, was Roman Harper. The day Roman Harper walked on that campus, I told him how great he was.
Yes.
All he was so great, athletic. I said, all you need to do is just learn this game. And I said, you'll be one of the best safeties to ever come through this university. Look what he went on to do.
Yes, sir.
But
have you considered being a talent evaluator, maybe a recruiter for Bama?
I think Bama does a good job. I don't think
Hey, that's a good eye, though. Roman Harper was damn good.
But, and I saw that just from working out with him, from being on the field, doing drills, and when he got there, he had raw talent. Roman Harper could have walked in there and took my position day one if he knew the college game. But as far as back to your question, I was just in a unique position at the time, and timing is everything. Now, when it comes to that coach, Coach Franchione, we didn't always see eye to eye, but he was fair.
It's okay to talk shit on here. Ain't nobody gonna hear it.
Safe place.
And he was fair, but I never agreed with. I always thought the Alabama job was too big for him.
Yeah.
Because I could see it wearing on him, and he just coming from where he came from. LT was his biggest talent, which was LaDainian Tomlinson.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good, but he never had the pressure of winning at a program the way that you get the pressure of at Alabama. And somebody to walk in and coach Alabama, it's not for the faint at heart. I mean, you're going to have pressure coming from every direction to win at that program and win quick. And he actually wasn't doing a bad job, but I could tell he wasn't happy. I could tell he wasn't happy from conversations I had with him.
Right.
And most of our conversations weren't good, but
well, my issue with him was he was supposed to be a quarterback guru, and he's playing the quarterback whose windup looks like a damn windmill. And no offense to Tyler Watts or whatever, but like, come on, they made fun of Tebow for his windup, and I went back and watched that 2002 game again, and it's been a while since I watched it. Holy hell!
I watched it last night. I got all my games put on DVD, and I watched it last night. And Tyler was a great talent. Tyler was one of the best quarterbacks to play in the state of Alabama in high school football.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot that goes on. It's a lot that goes into playing at Alabama because, honestly, there were some good people before me, and I was a walk-on, but there were some good people before me, and I think that I could have contributed more. I mean, one of my favorite players was Tony Dixon, and I looked up to that. I idolized him. I mean, him, Reggie Miles. But I still felt I could contribute. But, it's not all, when you get into the position of the quarterback at Alabama and Tyler Watts, Andrew Zhao, Brody Croyle, like, politics plays a big part in college sports, and especially when you get to Alabama. So you can't, it's not all, talent doesn't always win.
From the outside looking in, I think you nailed one of the biggest points right there. And this is a problem at Texas right now. Before Saban got there, it was ran by half university, half coach, and half boosters, it felt like, right? There was a lot of influences in there. And when Saban came in, he flushed all that out the tubes. And I think that was the biggest thing they could have done. Because we had great coaches when I was a kid, like Bill Curry and some of them, that we win 9 games or 10 games a year, not beat Auburn and get canned, you know what I mean? Because of that level of excellence that you're talking about that Franchione wasn't ready for.
Yeah, the boosters at Alabama, what I learned is that they play a major role Just play a major role in their influence over the program and what goes on in the program. And when you have, stars coming around the state the state of Alabama to come play. I mean, Alabama. I used to tell people when it came to the SEC, we were going to get the number 1, 2, and 3 players from every SEC state. Hell, every Southern state. We were going to get the best players out of every state in recruiting every year. And when this player comes from, Hoover, Alabama, and then when you look at, the boosters that come from Hoover or the boosters that come from certain areas, and they want to see people play, and they're sinking so much money into the Alabama program, it has a effect on the pressure that's put on the coach. And you need a dominant mind like Nick Saban to come in. You don't need a Dennis Franchione who's happy to get the Alabama job and not be ready for the pressures that come with the Alabama job. You need someone that can handle the outside pressure because the coach is getting it from fans. He's getting it from the boosters. He's getting it from the athletic department. He's getting it from the players. So you just have to have somebody right for that job. And,
Saban has earned that respect.
He earned that respect before he got there. Dennis Franchione gave me my opportunity, but he wasn't right for the job long term.
Dead on.
And I do want to touch a little bit before we move into your thoughts on the game today. You talked about being a walk-on, man. If you would kind of touch on that, like you said, when you got there, we were loaded at every position, and you could have played anywhere else. I know that Florida State recruited you. You had some other places. If I understand, Ronnie Cottrell had a huge role in you coming to Alabama. Would you kind of talk about your journey? Because it's a pretty special one, to go from being a walk-on, coming into a difficult situation there, especially during the time in Alabama, and eventually becoming a starter and ultimately playing safety for the Colts. If you would touch on that.
Before you jump in, I'm gonna say this because I know you're gonna be humble, and you don't need to be humble right here. Not many people turned down 1990s Florida State to come to my Crimson Tide, and buddy, thank you.
It was my honor to play for Alabama. As a kid, I would always see Alabama on TV, and they played such a dry brand of football. They played good defense, and they ran the ball down your throat.
Big Ten.
But what I saw was them dominating teams. And so I was like, Dad, I want to play for a team like that. And so Alabama was always my number one. And yeah, Ronnie Cottrell was recruiting me to Florida State. I had offers from other people, but my mom always told me, go where you want to go. And if you don't get a scholarship, she always said, I'll make a way. And so I chose to walk on at Alabama because that's where I wanted to go. And Ronnie Cottrell was at Florida State and just so happened to end up at Alabama. And he called my mom and said, your son wants to come to Alabama? He said, well, I'm going to Alabama right now. I'm leaving Florida State, going to Alabama. And he was like, send him there. And he said, we'll take care of him. And if he does his part, he said he'll be on scholarship. And I did my part. It was an easy thing because, my mom told me to do it. It was easy because she said, whatever you want to do, do whatever you feel is best for you. Because, when you send a kid out of the house, they have to be in a situation for them to succeed. And I thought that was what was best for me because it was what I wanted to do as an 18-year-old kid. And it worked out well, but all I had to do was put in the work that I knew that I was going to put in, and the chips fell in place.
Man, that's a great story, and that comes back to something that I always say nowadays. And we're better than Auburn. We're better than Auburn every year since 2007, no doubt about it. But those suckers have beat us 2 or 3 times. And the reason I think that they can jump up on us is because they have a lot of players from Alabama that know the rivalry, that know the teams, and they get up for that game like y'all did back then. You know what I mean? And now half our teams from all over the country, they don't understand the level of it. And that's how Auburn punches us in the mouth sometimes. And when I hear a story like yours, it just really makes my heart feel good, buddy.
I'm gonna tell you this. I knew about the Alabama-Auburn rivalry before I got to Alabama, but boy, did I learn something when I got to Alabama.
Yeah, baptized into it.
Oh yeah.
It's a great rivalry, probably the greatest rivalry in college football. but to play part in that game, it means a lot, win or lose. Now, granted, as a starter, I was 1-1 against Auburn, and I hated to leave the University of Alabama with losing my last game to Auburn, or last regular season game to Auburn, and that hurt.
Yeah.
Was that the 9-0 snow game?
No, that
No,
was
no.
2002 when they came to our house and beat us. That was very.
Gotcha.
And they had their third string running back playing, but I'm not still bitter.
Trey Smith.
Trey Smith. Yeah.
Look, I would never. If I see him in the street today, no, I'm just playing.
Still got one for him, huh?
I might tackle him because I think.
If you do,
You got to owe him one.
if you do, I want you to record it and put it on TikTok.
I'll record it and send it to your show.
That's fantastic.
That'll work. I will definitely put it on the Bama Standard.
Well, that would be our first viral video, I'm sure, for us.
I might go to jail for assault, but y'all
worth it.
bail me out.
Yeah. Hey, I got you. I got your bond. How about that? Personally, I'll come and get you wherever you are.
I was going to say we could start a GoFundMe and we'll have you out by the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Put a GoFundMe for that. You have enough to get Ruggsy out of jail. Boy, that's a sad situation there.
It is. But switching gears, let's talk about the game tonight. As you know, we've talked at length about the defense all year and last year. You've heard Marvin's take on it. He's placed the majority of the blame on Pete Golden. You heard AC's take on it, where it's more of a pride thing. It's more of lack of having that inner dog. If you would, man, on your perspective, where do you see the struggles coming from? Is it more so on Marvin's way of thinking, or is it more so on AC's way of thinking, or is it just kind of a marriage of both?
I'm going to say this. AC changed my mind because AC made me think of what it was to play for Alabama before I touched the football field. So I was agreeing with Marvin. Now, I'm not the biggest Pete Golden fan because I think there were better candidates for that job, because being defensive coordinator at Alabama, it takes a lot. But he puts the players in the position to make plays. I'm not going to say he always puts them in the best position, but at the end of the day, as a player, your pride as a player makes you make plays. It's not what call the coach makes. It's not what, anything. There's nothing that goes into it. But when coach makes a call, if you execute the call, there are going to be plays that beat the defense. But to beat a defense the way that we've seen our defense go this year, you can't blame that all on the coaches. These players need to take pride in being there, not worry about, I'm 5-star, I'm this, I'm going to get this nil deal. They need to take pride in being part of a defense that can be great, that being part of a program that has built its legacy off of grinding people out on defense and on offense. And these kids today, we've seen a lot of plays given up that we're not used to giving up. And we need to do better defensively. The players need to take more pride in what it is they're out there to do. And that will put these guys in better positions to play. With that being said, AC took, if I could quote AC and say everything that it is that he said that day, that's my new take on the Alabama defense.
Yeah, he completely changed my way of thinking too. I think he changed a lot of minds, man. I think some people got saved that day too.
Well, look, they're capable. After watching what they did to Ole Miss, after watching what they did after the games where they mess up, man, they tighten up. They've got it in them.
Yeah, they definitely have it in them. I mean, that's a talented defense. You got a bunch of 4- or 5-star guys that are contributing to this defense, and it's about the want-to of the players. I had a coach at Alabama, before, Charlie Harbison, and he always told us, he was like, it's about want to. And a coach can't make you want it more than what you want when you're on the field. A coach can prepare you during the week, but if you don't want the success yourself, a coach can't give that to you.
Well, let me ask you this question, because I think this played a big factor in that Texas A&M loss. But when you're the second string guy, right, and you've got a guy in front of you like Malachi Moore, who you're probably not going to take a lot of his snaps, right? How do you motivate yourself during the week to prepare for practice like that until he gets knocked out, and then you got to step in, and all of a sudden you can see that chink in the armor? Now, what does it take to get that second string? Is it leadership? Is that what it is, or what makes that happen?
You like I said, you have to want success.
Sure.
You're playing football. Every snap, the starter can go down. I'll use myself for an example. I didn't walk into the 2001 season starting when we played UCLA. Shantu Ray was the starter at strong safety. He got hurt mid-game, and I took over for him. I came in and I played. My coach told me, you played great in relief. And from that day, Shantu never got the starting job back.
Yeah.
And on the way out, carrying out the rest of that season and going into the next season, I was a starter at that position. But it was because I prepared like I was a starter.
Yep.
And if you don't prepare yourself, the coach can give you the playbook. He can give you the weekly game plan. He can give you the keys, the tips from the quarterbacks, all of that stuff. If you're not prepared, you're not going to be ready. And the thing is, that goes into life. It goes into
everything.
Me working my 9 to 5 right now. If you're not prepared for what's going to come next, if you're not prepared for the next week's game, the next week's business meeting, you're not going to succeed.
If you're not 30 minutes early for the podcast, Justin. I'm always busting Justin for rolling in with eggs in his mouth 5 minutes before we start.
Well, you bring up a very good point. This week we had Kevin Norwood on our show, and one of the biggest things he talked about leading up to his success against LSU for the 2011 national championship was he had this mindset every game: be ready, be ready, be ready. And like you said, you prepare like you're going to be starting that game. And I think a lot of these guys don't really understand that. I mentioned it earlier. A lot of these guys are more concerned about the NIL stuff, posting on their Instagram or their star status instead of earning it not just on the practice field, the classroom, weight room, et cetera, et cetera. It's earning it in every aspect, every phase, to where the coach trusts you to put you in that situation. I think that this younger generation is missing that. And another point, a lot of Alabama fans are griping because we're not seeing the stars of this highly coveted freshman class like Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think maybe Coach Saban doesn't have those guys on the field because
he knows more than we do.
he does. Yeah, he knows more than we do. But there's something about that personnel group that he doesn't trust. And the reason why they're not on the field is because his hands are tied at the moment until those guys earn his trust.
Coach Saban's not going to put a guy on the field that doesn't check every box for him. And,
going to class is one of them boxes.
and unfortunately, it has to be. It has to be because, going to class, we had some issues with that. And like AC told you guys earlier, we had some issues with that with certain people. And there would be somebody, hey, at your door, come on, it's time for us to go to class. You got to check the boxes for Coach Saban to put you on the field. And what players nowadays need to realize is that you're not here to play football. You're here to get an education. And football is a bonus. It's paying your way to go get your education. But if you don't do good in the classroom, you're not going to touch that field. So with that being said, you've got to check the boxes. Now, moving the classroom aside, if you're not prepared, if you're not in your playbook, if you're not, watching your film, if you're not working out, if you're not getting stronger, getting faster, getting ready every constant week, you're not going to get on the field for Coach Saban. And I don't care what star recruit you are, if you don't put the work in, Coach Saban is not going to put you on the field. There may be a guy behind you that's not as good, and obviously because he's not starting or something, but he'll play that guy because the guy does everything.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question for you because I never got to play football at your level, and man, did I ever want to. Just didn't have it, right? So one of the questions that always interests me is that once you're finished being a Bama player and you're going back and watching Bama, do you turn into a fan again? Do you have like favorite players? Who's your favorite player on the Bama team right now?
I don't have a favorite player, but what I want success for the program.
Sure.
I'm an Alabama guy through and through, and I just want to win. I understand you can't win every game. When we lost the Texas A&M game, I wasn't even mad. If you look at what Texas A&M has on that roster, I don't care what their records are. They have more 5-star talent. They have top 10 recruiting classes. They have the same talent we have. They may not have the depth that we have. But at the end of the day, I want Alabama to win. Just like my coach always told me, those guys are on scholarship just like you are.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, they get a paycheck just like you do. You're not playing against bums. So any given Saturday or any given Sunday, somebody can beat you when you're the favorite. So I don't have a particular favorite player, but I like to see all my guys.
I love those answers because that is like the standard perfect answer. But we've lost you for a second. I'm hoping you come back in if you can. Can you hear me right now? All right, let's talk for a second till we get him back in because I'm gonna refine that question just a little bit. And
he might not be cheering for any specific players.
Sure.
But I know as a defensive, Wayne, as a defensive guy, you played in arguably one of the best defenses in Alabama history. I mean, you name dropped several great guys earlier: Derek Pope, Kenny King, Jarrett Johnson. You know, Jarrett Johnson won a Super Bowl. Kenny King played in the NFL for a lot of years. So I know as a defensive unit, I know you're probably pulling for them more than anybody because you want to see us play to that standard. So what is your expectations today against LSU? I know it's not really a highly publicized game just because of everything that's surrounding it, but is this a statement game for Alabama, especially defensively?
And he may not be hearing you right now. He's gone red. There he is.
And I made some good points, man.
I know it's a good one.
Powerful.
Yeah, he'll be back in just a second. It seems like it's just kind of waning in and out on him. We'll just kind of there he is.
Okay, there we go.
We got him back.
All right. So, but
Dang.
It's funny. It's like every time he's about to make a big point, it's when
All right. I'm just like hanging on the edge of my seat, and then he cuts out right there.
It's like watching a mini series on TV. It's kind of comical.
All right, I got a beat. All right, I might have him back here. Hold on. I'm gonna wait on that screen to clear up, and then I'll let him in. But we're just got a black screen right now. All right, there we go. Back in action.
So, but yeah, I'm curious to hear the thoughts because Bo Scarborough said earlier this week this is a statement game. But
Sure.
Yeah, Wayne, go ahead, man. Like I said, I don't know how much.
Sorry about the connection there.
My rambling you heard, but if you would, man, tell me what statement Alabama's defense has to make today, or the team as a whole. It happened again, man. I think it has something to do with me.
Must be. I think he went out to come back in again.
I think what it is because my beard game does not exist, and it's
the internet's mad because you didn't grow a beard for November, right? I mean, come on, you got to support prostate cancer, bro.
I'm going to find another way or get one of those little spray-on things.
Hey, that works too. They got stick-ons.
Back in the 80s or 90s where
Yeah, it looks like he's coming back in, but we still hadn't got the connection there together. It's such a bummer because we were getting the good
this is
stuff.
like a dramatic pause that won't end.
All right, here we go. All green. Look at that.
All green.
We got you back, Wayne. Yep.
All right, can you ask that question one more time?
Okay, I'll try to sum it up. Like I mentioned earlier, you played on one of the greatest defenses. That Kenny King, yourself, Derek Pope, Gerald Dixon, a bunch of guys. We could name the entire defense. So I know you don't really cheer for a specific player, but I think you're cheering for the defensive unit as a whole. So today, is this a statement game for the defense?
You're going to have to ask your next question in like 2 seconds because he went out again while you were talking. Oh, the problems with live TV, guys. We are very sorry about that. It happens. You can't do anything about it. If we could get AT&T and all these phone companies to quit having shitty service all over the world, then we might could pull off one of these shows, right?
Is he calling on Cricket Wireless?
There we are. We're in again.
No.
That's quite all right, but yeah.
You're coming in and out on us a little bit. It's still showing you. I've got you as a red signal right now. So whenever that pops back up to yellow or green, I'll let you know.
He has to earn his way onto the field.
That's right. We got a good still shot of him though. That's like you put that on your profile pic.
That could be a profile pic. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Well, if we get him back, I'm going to say, look, rephrase my question. You got an $80 certificate to the soup store that only works on jerseys. Which one you getting?
Well, first of all, $80 isn't going to cover it. You're still going to owe another $20.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been to the soup store. $80 would have covered it in 2006, man.
Hey, man,
you got to pay that NIL premium now. It's
got
$120.
a couple of jerseys for that actually back then, but now they're like $99 a piece or $100 a piece. Yeah, it's crazy. I visit RollTide.com quite often.
Well, it looks like we lost Wayne there. Maybe he'll get back with us before we get this thing tied up. But I believe what you were talking about in the question you were asking him was a really good one, and hopefully we can get the answer of what he's expecting or what's going to be that statement that's made by the Tide today. But I don't know if you've noticed this. It's 11:59 Eastern, which means we got kickoffs in 1 minute.
We do. So I guess until we get him back, the best thing we can, right now, score predictions.
Score predictions. Let's do it. You work us through them. Your turn this time.
All right. Well, let's go with since Tim was with us earlier today, previewing Auburn and Texas A&M. Let's start out with that one, and I'll let you pick this one first.
All right. I got a little. Oh, we got Wayne back.
All right, I had to move to a different parking spot. Sorry about that.
Dang it.
Oh, you're looking great now. All green. All
right. Well, my basic question was, and without going through my dissertation again, was coming from a great defense that you played for back in your day. Looking at this defense now, what statement does this defense have to make today against LSU?
I just think you got to come out and set the tone. LSU has talent. Just like I said, everybody has talent in this conference. You got to come out and set the tone. It doesn't mean a shutout, but if you impose your will on the LSU offense, you've done your job, and we will succeed if we do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
You got a score prediction for us today, Wayne?
Yeah. Before we close you out, what is your score prediction, and give us an MVP?
All right, so I'm gonna preface this by saying this. One of my old high school teammates is now the defensive coordinator for LSU.
Oh man,
Durante Jones, and we played high school football at Bishop McNamara up here in Maryland. And I don't want Alabama to embarrass him. I want him to have success. However, he's playing Alabama this week. Alabama 38, LSU 17.
Ooh, 17 points on it.
Score from back in 2013. Yeah,
I'll take it. Hey, I'll take it. Now, I would prefer 55 to something, maybe 10.
I
that
like
way
that,
I can get the cover because I've got a 25.5 point line I got to cover here.
Let me flip this. If your friend wasn't involved, what would you say?
Oh, Alabama 60, LSU 10.
Now that's what I'm talking about. We got to send this guy some crimson tinted glasses so we know when he's telling the truth.
I'm gonna say this. I want my guy to do well.
Sure.
He's worked his way up through the high school, college ranks, and to be the D coordinator at LSU is a great accomplishment. Especially since we played high school football together.
Sure.
So I wish him well, but not this week.
Yeah, and I don't think defense is really the LSU team's weakness either. They just can't. They just got an offense from 1934.
Yeah, they do, and that's been their problem. That's been their problem since when Les Miles was there.
Except that 1 year.
But the thing is, they have talent. Except the year they had Joe Burrow, they have so much talent, and it seems like they're always a quarterback away because they have receivers, they have tight ends, they have offensive linemen. Is
there another team in the entire college football landscape that puts more receivers in the NFL that you hadn't heard of till they get to the NFL?
No, there's not. There's not.
It's amazing the talent they got down there.
Absolutely.
Well, Wayne,
I know you know that better than me because you had to line up against those suckers.
You really did, man. You definitely earned your NFL contract coming out of college playing against some of those guys. Woo!
Hey, being a defensive back, this is the one thing as a fan that most fans just don't understand. You can play 99 great plays and blow one coverage or have one thing go wrong, and that's all anybody sees because they don't throw the ball your way. You know what I mean? Tell me a little bit about that. Did you ever get a lot of any unfair criticism from the people like us? Now, I was cheersing with bacon, so I was on your side. But
so I'm going to say this. You can't listen to what happens on the outside.
True.
And, you can be criticized. I had friends tell me what people said or whatever, and as long as you allow that to enter your head, it's going to bother you. You can be mentally strong, mentally tough, but you can't let what's said on the outside get to you, because you play defensive back in a major college football conference. You're going to give up touchdowns. There's not too many people that don't give up touchdowns, so that's not going to miss a tackle or that's going to blow a coverage. Things are going to happen, and as long as you can put that behind you, the very next step, very next play, you'll succeed. But as long as you think about, hey, man, I just allowed that touchdown last time I was on the field, you're going to allow another one.
Yeah.
You just have to move forward, because the shortest memory on a football field needs to be the quarterback position and the defensive back position.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Quarterback's going to turn the ball over, and DBs are going to give up touchdowns.
DB is the most no-respect position that I've ever seen, and it's one of the most important out there, and they do the best job at Alabama. And when one of them messes up, it's always glaringly obvious. And when a left guard messes up, or when a interior defensive lineman messes up, nobody notices.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, fantastic, man. You've been a great guest. We're over the kickoffs right now, actually. We've just crossed over to the 12:03 mark, so we're about to start missing football, and people are going to tell us to go F ourselves because they're going to watch real football.
Wayne, man, thank you for coming on, bud.
Thank you, guys. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, brother.
Cheers, brother. Also, always tell this to my guests, especially the good ones like yourself. If you're ever in Charlotte or Tampa, make sure you give the Week Zero Sports guys a call, and we'll take you out to a hell of a dinner, and we'll have a great time.
I'm planning on coming down to Charlotte to visit my boy Roman Harper. So,
well, I'll tell you something. I'll get my number sent over to you so you can call me. I'll take you to a little place called The Cellar downtown, and you will be impressed.
There you go.
All right, my man.
Wayne, thanks again.
Thank you for making our little show legitimate, bud.
Justin, Tim, thank you guys for having me.
Yes,
all right.
Sir.
All right, we'll see you, Wayne.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
He called me Tim the whole time, and I'm fine with that.
Now, I just want to say, when you say something I disagree with, I don't think so, Tim.
I don't think so, Tim.
I
love it, man.
Real quick before everybody,
got to do our scores.
Scores. Actually, let's start with Ole Miss and Liberty, since Petty actually talked about it first. Sorry about that, Daniel. So
I'm going to give you a halftime and a full game score for that one. I think it's going to be something like 17 or 20 to 10 or 17 at halftime. And whatever Liberty has at halftime, I think they'll score less than a touchdown in the second half. I think Ole Miss pulls away and wins this game by 3 touchdowns, even with their beleaguered offense.
Ole Miss will win, and I think they're going to keep it very basic, very vanilla today. I think we're going to see a lot of Snoop Connor and Jerry and Ely.
Corral getting that ball out in the first 2 or 3 seconds every single play so he doesn't get hit.
And just limit what he's going to do, because to be honest, you really don't need him in this game, because you've got bigger fish to fry next week. So huge game. So don't do much. As a matter of fact, I say take him out at some point, bring Altmaier in.
What's your score?
Ole Miss 31, Liberty 14.
Not bad. 2 TDs. I like that. Can't hold them to a field goal. Weak sauce. All right. Next game. Let's go with Mississippi State and Arkansas.
Mississippi State and Arkansas. Like I said, man, I'm always reluctant to pick Mississippi State in this game, just because weird stuff always happens. But because I want to see a great post-game performance from Mike Leach, I'm going to go Mississippi State 42, Arkansas 24.
Ooh, I like it. I'm going 34-31 Cowbells.
Ooh.
I like a close game in this one.
Okay.
I like a close game in this one. All right. So, you lead us through which games you want to cover before we get to the one that matters.
Just keeping the SEC, because outside
the SEC.
I don't, like I mentioned earlier. You know my disdain for Cincinnati game day, so we're not going to talk about
Georgia, Missouri. Tell me how it's going to go.
Georgia, Missouri. Can you keep Georgia's interest long enough?
How about this? If you take away Georgia's offense completely, how much does Georgia still win only on defensive scores? 21-0?
28-10.
I hear you.
To be honest with you, all Georgia really needs to do is score 17 or 20 points per game, and that's really enough.
I think Bama puts 30 on them. Write that down.
If we get there. But yeah, Georgia,
If we get there.
38-10.
We still got to beat Auburn. Good Lord. All right, speaking of Auburn, what do you think in this Auburn A&M game? This is a big one.
I'm trying to avoid picking because I want Auburn to lose just because of what's at stake.
Sure.
This is a huge measuring stick in terms of how hot Auburn is and how good Bo Nix is right now. Because as we all know, he can't play on the road, and one of the worst environments to play on the road is Kyle Field. So that being said, Texas A&M wins 34-28.
Man, we were right close. I had 31-30 Texas A&M in this game. I think Auburn covers regardless, however it goes. I'm right there with Tim. I think it's going to be a close game, and I just think Auburn's the play in this one.
Quarterback play is what's going to win this game.
It is.
Show up.
Is A&M going to see a little flash of Manziel on the other team today, maybe?
Probably.
He runs around a little bit like Manziel. He hadn't got the arm that, well, maybe he does. I don't know. He's just not as good looking as Manziel.
He could have one of those
same
good
stuff.
Madden performances on where you just run around, throw up a prayer, and it is caught.
Oh, you mean the stuff that happens against Bama all the time?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Speaking of LSU Bama, give me a prediction on that score.
Oh, me. Okay. Alabama's going to win 55-10.
I like it. 55-10 covers. I actually think it's a slightly lower scoring game than that. I got 41-6 in this one. I got a 35-point victory, 41-6.
Hey, that means they don't have a touchdown, which, to be honest with you,
that's what I'm hoping for.
I was generous there. I don't want to score a touchdown. I don't want them to see the end zone whatsoever.
Who knows how motivated the damn LSU players are going to be. They got talent.
Well, that's the thing, man. Are they going to come out playing defeated, or are they going to treat this like their Super Bowl?
I hope it don't matter.
It shouldn't matter because they're playing with majority backups.
Well, I was hoping that Daniel would get back in here, Mr. Petty, before the end, so he could give us some, hardcore hotty-totties on the way out the door. So I guess I'll have to do it for him, hotty-totty. But it's about time for us to wind this thing down, right, buddy?
Where the hell is he?
Yeah, where the hell is it? I love it. I love it. Well, you got anything else for the team before we go?
Let's just go out and handle business today. It doesn't get any simpler than what is laid out for us. Make a statement and make a good statement. Beat the hell out of LSU. Get ready for this cupcake next week, and get your mind right for the remaining 2 weeks, which are going to be quite the task.
Heard that. All I got to say is get yourself a corn dog. Let's beat the hell out of them.
And tune into the Bama Standard next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're still trying to solidify our guests, but it doesn't matter because we are always lit.
Always lit. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button on both the Week Zero Sports YouTube page and the Justin Riley Network YouTube page. And if you're not listening to the podcast, there's something wrong with you. Make sure you're subscribed to our podcast, Week Zero Sports and other stuff, on all your favorite podcast apps.
Yes, sir.
Roll Tide, everybody. I'm
Roll
out of here.
Tide.
See you guys next week.